are going live.
We are live right now. We should be live and going right there. Brain, can you see us on there? Or are you over on YouTube?
Stand by.
Okay. Let me see here. I'm over.
Good evening, everybody. My name is AJ Chabria with the ATN Podcast. Next to me, as always, is Craig Bell. Our guest tonight is amazing. His name is Steve Davis. We are just putting some final touches. Craig is, at least, as he helps to produce with our actual producer on the FaceTime. And as soon as we're rolling, you will hear it. You'll love it. And stick with us. Share. Like, share, subscribe, do what you got to do.
Right.
And here comes Craig Bell. Yes.
Hopefully. Let me see here.
Oh, let's see. We go live.
We're still looking right here. I'm still trying to.
And folks at home, while Craig is sort of producing and setting things up, we are getting a chance to go 3 sets with Steve Davis. As you can see in the back, there's some tennis memorabilia. It's foam balls. It's touch tennis from an amazing college tennis player from the 70s and 80s. Is that right, Steve?
That's right, and mostly the 70s, graduated 79.
Uh-huh.
The glory days, whereas they were.
The golden age of tennis. I loved it. And
That's
behind him, also guitars, and we're definitely talking about that in the third set. So here we go.
All right.
All right. Just a second here. Brain, hold on just for a couple seconds. But anyway, we are live. I got the thumbs up. And so, James Scott Campbell, let's get this podcast going.
You are at the net. And welcome, friends, to another episode of the At the Net podcast, powered by Tex-Mex Productions. Working the soundboards in the back of the house are our producers, D-Mac and Dave the Brain. Time to say hello to your hosts, Craig Bell and AJ Chabria, as they're about to take us through 3 sets of tennis, talking life and all the news as it seems to them. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Bell.
Okay, thanks to our At the Net podcast girl, Margot Carter.
That was her. She did a great job, as always.
For that effervescent.
Effervescent.
You like that? See, that's our word of the night, effervescent, Steve-O.
We have a different one every week, and tonight, no exception. That's
right.
A good one.
He doesn't know until this.
Yeah, I'm always surprised by the word of the day.
That was an effervescent introduction, was it not?
She lives that way. She's
vivacious
effervescent
and enthusiastic.
For sure.
Just like our guest here in a second that we'll bring on. And welcome, fans of the great game. You're listening to Season 1. This would be episode 9 and 7.
97.
97. We're closing in on that century mark right there.
Right.
At the Net podcast with my fellow podcast partner. That would be AJ Chabria, a.k.a. AJC, right?
Yes, and next to me, CB1, as we call him, Craig Bell.
And we are talking the great game of tennis as it seems to us. Thanks also go out to our good amigos at Tex-Mex Productions. That would be one Darian D. Mac McBrayer and Dave the Brain. We do have a Brain sighting right there, so I'll hold him up right there. He is. He is there, right there. He's not producing. Normally, he can kind of take over the screen, but tonight he's on Facebook Messenger. But he was from the back of the house. We had a couple of little minor things, not anything big. We just need to get the password so we could get Steve here. So that was kind of a big deal. But we're moving the dials and buttons to make us look and sound like real people tonight, aren't we?
That we are, buddy, and so is our guest. I'm looking forward to this.
Yep. Also, be sure to check out and follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Plus, check out our good work on. I'm going to take a deep breath now. You ready? Fireside, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, CastBox, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Spotify. I made it all through there, didn't I?
You exhaled a lot of information there. Well done. Veteran broadcaster there, pal.
Basically, all the important communication sites the kids find popular, right?
That's it.
They do find it popular. And if you're a female, like the great Margot Carter, the effervescent Margot Carter right there, and would like to read the opening intro, just hit us up on the digits, right? Do they know where to find us?
They do. Okay. They have the email. They have the DM on the Instagram and Facebook and whatever else, yeah. Okay,
so speaking of effervescent, I told you this guy, he is effervescent.
Look at him.
Right there. Vivacious. He's enthusiastic. All right, I've known Steve Davis for over 25 years. Isn't that amazing? We worked at a various company, a little company, just a small tennis company back in the day. Steve was there longer than I was. I was there for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea.
It's funny. You're joking small company. Now it might be a small company, but my goodness, number one in racket sports back then.
Yes, number one in a lot of categories. It was because of this man right here, Steve Davis, that worked there. How many years did you work there, Steve?
Quarter century, gentlemen, 25 years.
Wow.
And we're talking about Prince in was it Bordentown or Princeton, New Jersey?
Well, Prince was born in Princeton. That's where they got the name.
Makes sense.
In the garage for a guy that was making ball machines, taking a vacuum cleaner motor and reversing it and shooting balls out of a tube. And that was the very first product for Prince.
Is that why it sounded like?
Yeah, that thwomp sound.
Right.
I mean, all of us old timers remember the thwomp Prince ball machines out there. So
Oh yeah,
that's how it all started back in 1970. And
that was a long time
Howard
ago.
Head bought one and became intrigued with the machine, and he knew he could improve it, and came to Trenton, New Jersey, to meet with the people at Prince, and he ended up buying the company.
Wow. I mean, that Prince ball machine, had VSP on it also, too. Did you know VSP?
What's VSP?
I don't know, but it said VSP
Yeah.
on the side.
Variable shot pattern, Craig.
That's it.
God, that was only, that's tough.
Wow.
You got to remember that. That's right.
Well, I remember you could put the little
Those little, almost like a tennis ball lid,
Yes.
a can lid
Yeah.
in them. I kind of remember VSP. Definitely didn't know what it stood for. Thank you.
Yes.
And I grew up hitting with one of those. It was black and white and large, and it made that whoomp, that air sound. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the Little Prince.
Yeah.
The first product of Prince. Yep, that was it.
Yeah, that was a great company. And like I said, I was there for a cup of tea just shortly. I mean, pretty much started when he was probably in grade school, 25 years. I mean, I can't believe that. Gosh, 25 years, and you're only 30. You were 31 when he quit. It's amazing,
Amazing.
No, but Steve did a number of things at Prince. I mean, you started kind of on the ground floor and then kind of worked your way through various different departments, and then ended up, being in charge of the whole shooting match, basically, right?
Well, here's how it all went down. I was just a, little boy in Boise, Idaho, picked up a tennis racket at age 13 and knew that was what I was supposed to do. And that's all I did. I dropped my baseball bat and football and basketball, and that's all I did was play tennis. And, I wanted to be the best in the world. And so I went to play for the University of Idaho, who had one of the better teams, actually, in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, and that was quite formidable for me. And I remember as a sophomore, I got an ulcer in college.
Wow.
And it was such a severe ulcer, I couldn't even stand up straight. And I discovered what it was eventually. I wanted to be the best tennis player in the world, and I wanted to be the best engineer. And I couldn't do both. But I figured out if I could combine the two, I could be a pretty good engineer and a pretty good tennis player. The ulcer went away. I geared all my education toward materials, and I wanted to be a tennis racket designer or ski designer. I love skiing. Graduated from the University of Idaho. I won a couple of Big Sky conferences. So I was a good player, and nobody wanted to hire me. And in that interview process, I heard about the University of Wyoming. They had a composite materials department, and I went and got a master's in engineering focusing on carbon fiber. And then as it all would happen, if you believe in fate, and I do believe in fate,
Yes.
As I was getting ready to graduate, my mentor there at the University of Wyoming was flying on a plane from Denver to Laramie, and there was an ad from Head Sports for a master's degree engineer that was a tennis player. he threw this paper on my desk. He goes, "There's your next job."
Incredible. It was a Venn diagram with a small intersection, and that intersection was Steve Davis.
I looked at that. I couldn't believe it. I was doing a thesis for K2 skis. I was making ski sections and looking how camber changed with temperature, something that only geeks care about. And I went up to interview, and the guy goes, "Let's go play tennis. I want to see how good you are."
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, okay. That's fine."
It's part of your interview.
So later, we went back to the office. He goes, "Okay, you're hired."
Yeah.
So.
And you beat him a kindly 6-2, 6-2 or something?
No, it was 6-0. I said,
Oh,
"Look,
it
you
really
can't touch
you
me."
you had no mercy. You crushed him.
Well, look, some of you play college tennis and you go onto the court with a 4-5 player. What's going to happen?
6-0, yeah.
So, but that was okay. That's what he wanted to find out. And, the tennis industry, the sporting goods industry was full of, tricks and turns. I remember reporting to work my first day. That guy, they interviewed me, Lou Greenberg, met me at the door. He goes, "Today's my last day. Have a good time. Goodbye."
Unbelievable.
I go, "Where are you going?"
You're the guy who hired
You
me.
can't hire me.
Yeah.
You can't leave. He goes, "See ya." And I'm like, "Oh, God.
Wow.
Welcome to Sporting Goods." There you are.
What an inauspicious
crazy beginning, right?
Walk in and go, oh well, where are we going now? So who ended up being somebody that you reported to then besides this guy?
Well, it was the second in command. He was really an engineer, a real geeky guy. And I worked there for 6 years. They had manufacturing there in Boulder, which was a wonderful experience. It was the last manufacturing facility left in the United States, aside from Mcconaughey in San Diego, for a tennis racket manufacturer and ski manufacturer. Boulder, Colorado was the last one, the last bastion.
Oh, really?
And I worked there 6 years. I worked my way up to manager of engineering, and then I got a phone call. I got a phone call from the big dogs at Prince. They wanted me to come to New Jersey and head up their own R&D group. And I said, really? I'm a Rocky Mountain boy. I don't go to New Jersey. I grew up in Idaho and Wyoming and Colorado and all that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and go back there and check it out. What the heck? And Dave Haggerty picked me up for the airport. And Dave and I would become best friends, and I would report to him. Wow. He was the VP of marketing, now the head of the ITF, right?
Yep.
That Dave Haggerty. We played doubles together, and the industry right then and there was about to go north. It was going north. It was 1987. The wide body era had just begun. The previously oversized era had started in 1976 with Prince. Howard had oversized racket, introduced that in 1976. Prince was on a ramp up and had achieved the number one share in tennis rackets by, let's say, the mid-'80s, all right? Then along comes the Wilson profile. And before that was a guy from Germany called Siegfried Kubler.
Kubler, yeah.
Yeah, Kubler had invented this wide beam racket. And when I was working at Head, I was in Austria quite a bit because that's where the headquarters were. And I met Sigi, and we tried that racket on court. And the first ball I hit the fence on the rise. I mean,
it was a rocket launcher. And at that moment, it wasn't a Wilson profile, right? It hadn't been bought by. It was a Kubler, right? It was a Sigi.
Resonance,
Resonance, I see.
Resonance.
Yeah, a little French there from the German.
Little German, yeah. And you're holding this racket going, God, and you're in the European environment. We all said, well, it's too powerful. Hey, we cannot play this racket. Yeah. And that's how close-minded we were. But, Jim Baugh wasn't. And Jim Baugh took that racket, and Wilson just went up. And then they were marching big time in market share, and that's when I came into Prince in 87. So.
Yeah. Wow. What an interesting story.
Interesting. And Jim Baugh in Chicago, Wilson Racket Sports, he's the one who took it international and huge and came up with a name like the Profile. How did you feel as a young engineer at that time? And, moving into Prince, what did you guys do to counter the success of the Wilson Profile?
Well, we didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I come in September of 1987. Jack Sullivan, the president, meets me, and I don't have an R&D department. I have nobody.
It's just you.
You need to get to Taiwan, and you need to come up with an answer to the profile, and it needs to be at the Super Show in January. Good luck. Don't come back without it.
In Atlanta, Georgia, if I recall, January of 88.
That's right. It was like the American Express trip. Don't come home without it.
Without it.
Wow.
So, I go to Taiwan, and I have a couple of consultants working for me. And I went from an environment at Head where the Austrians controlled everything to an environment at Prince where I can do anything I want.
Freedom,
total freedom. And so I did. I invented a constant taper system.
CTS, yeah. That's
CTS,
where right above the grip, it was pretty thin, and then it got thicker and thicker up to the head, and you could rock the ball when you hit off center even. I remember that racket.
That's right.
Yeah.
So increase the beam size where the low sweet spot was, or low power point is on the racket. Made a lot of sense, yet it could flex near the handle to give you some comfort.
Right.
Kind of the best of both worlds. Where the profile, the way we positioned it, you were constantly removing your teeth from the shock of impact. Here, you had a CTS that had the best of both worlds. You had power and comfort.
Right.
So
the Thunderstick.
So it was constantly that, guys, that triangle of design, power, control, comfort.
Comfort, right.
And my philosophy was I want a racket that has all three.
Not just all power and terrible comfort. Not just all comfort and no power, which was basically wood rackets or, all the thin beam rackets like the Head Prestige or the Dunlop Max 200G, which was definitely at the forefront in the mid-'80s, but you guys totally took over.
Well, every racket was not perfect, right? Some rackets had more power, some had more control, some had more comfort. You had a selection, you had a range, you had a collection that you would offer people. So we had CTS in 2 beam heights, 128, 124, right? And then eventually 26, and eventually double bridge, and that was another invention that happened on the back of a napkin. That was pretty cool.
Really?
So anyway, I go to Taiwan. I've got to deliver a wide body technology. Okay, CTS is it. But I want a comfort handle. I don't want just a foam handle. I don't want a graphite handle. So I invent this rubber handle, and it's a injection molded rubber handle, and it made the racket a lot more comfortable. So that was a really good feature in that racket. So that was it, and that's what CTS. And we delivered that at the Super Show in January, and it took off. Could not make enough rackets. Everybody was successful, no matter what you had. You remember the Yamaha Secret?
Of course.
Sure.
That was a wide body racket.
Don't tell anybody, though. Shh.
Don't tell anybody. Yeah. They did very well with that. I mean, Head struggled a bit. Head had the Nodal, which we nicknamed the Noodle. They didn't quite have the wide body pop that you needed, so they kind of struggled for a little bit with that. But everybody was making as many rackets as they could from 87 to 92. You could not make enough rackets. The demand in the market was so strong back then.
So many people were switching from the early 80s graphite style racket, and there were still some people out on the courts with aluminum and maybe even wood, and all those people were buying 2 or 3 of your things in the late 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, like Jay Berger.
Yeah.
I mean, Jay Berger would not give up that Prince Pro. Man.
That metal black Prince Pro, yeah.
And Cedric Pioline, and even Pat Cash.
Pat Cash, yeah, he had aluminum
Mag
Prince.
Pro, remember that one?
Mag, yeah.
He won Wimbledon in 1987 with the Mag Pro.
And if I recall,
the
Cedric...
last metal racket to win a Grand Slam.
That's right. But Pioline 5 years later, I guess 6 years later, 93 U.S. Open finals with a metal racket.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right, but he didn't win it, though.
He didn't win it. Pete got him bad, yeah.
I thought he was using the ceramic. He didn't use the white ceramic at that time?
It was white, but it was a metal with the plastic bridge.
No wonder. I thought it was a ceramic.
Right. So those were the glory days of racket sports. I mean, rackets were, 3 revolutions in rackets. They're all dimensional. One was oversized.
Right.
Okay? One was wide body, bigger beam. Then the third one was longer or long body rackets in 95. Those are 3-dimensional changes that were revolutionary. We define revolution as changing the market. So when that technology was introduced, the subsequent years, the next 2 to 3, even 5 years, the market would come and grow to adopt those technologies. All the various brands would. And that's how we define revolutionary. So anyway, those were all good times.
Gosh, Steve, good stuff. That was a nice bit of material to cover how you got started in the great game, going from all those other sports to tennis, and of course a little bit of skiing. I enjoyed learning about your engineering, your research, and development with Prince. But after your life with Prince, you got into technology, which a lot of people are now having to embrace. But you did it pretty early in the late '90s, early 2000s.
I got into what kind of technology?
I'm understanding that you were the chief technology officer for Golf Pride.
Well, right. So after I left Prince back in 2012, when Prince filed Chapter 11, a bunch of us were shown the door. Yeah. Actually, I was going to start my own company, and then Easton Baseball lured me out to Los Angeles, and I worked there for baseball bats and hockey sticks for about 3 years. Had a great time, had a great manager, Dewey Chauvin, out there, and even got to meet Jim Easton, who was one of my heroes. Jim Easton and Howard Head. Those were the 2 guys, they were iconic in sports, right?
In the business.
Howard Head.
Yeah.
I was one door away from meeting Howard Head once at Prince, and wish I could have met that man.
Yeah.
So anyway, Easton for 3 years, and then I got recruited to come back and rebuild the R&D team at Golf Pride. So I did that for 5 years, and I left Golf Pride about a year ago.
I don't play a ton of golf, but I can tell you all 14 or 15 of my clubs, Golf Pride grips. with a tennis overgrip over it sometimes.
Really?
for a putter, for sure.
You're such a tennis player.
My hands are pretty big, and I wanted the turn grip or something over it. Yeah. So Golf Pride, tell us about some of the technology that you learned and used there that you are currently using in this amazing project. As we go to the second set, we let go of the background a little and we get into current and future projects. But at the end of the first here, I'd love to hear what you're using in terms of tech.
Well, certainly golf grips are a lot different than, tennis rackets. I mean, I'll tell you one thing, just a grip in a tennis racket is the most difficult product to develop. In golf, you have a towel and you can wipe it off and you can hit one shot.
Yeah.
In tennis, you have one racket, folks.
Yeah.
And you're dripping wet.
Yep.
Your wristbands are wet. Your socks are wet. Your underwear's wet. There's not a dry thing left on your body.
Especially in this climate down here. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Where he
We've
lives
all
too.
been there, right?
Yeah. Even, certainly in North Carolina where you are. Yeah.
Right.
So the only thing you can do is either one, change your rackets or change your overgrip.
Uh-huh.
It's the only options you have, besides a bathroom break or whatever. So they are related, but they're not related. And so, I didn't come to Touch Tennis to design a new grip, but I came in contact with Rashid Ahmad through Larry Hogness. Now, Larry Hogness was my coach in Idaho.
Wow.
He was, I think, in the Missouri Valley in Springfield, Missouri. And he knew Rashid. I don't know how he knew Rashid, who's the founder of Touch Tennis, but he put me in touch with him. And Rashid needed some technical support. And in particular, he needed a net and he needed to develop a ball.
Uh-huh.
So this was 5 years ago, and he had a foam ball at that time. But we started to apply a bit of science to it. And the entire goal for Rashid was to develop a scaled-down version of tennis so that the speed of ball, length of racket, and dimension of court would replicate the full court game.
Bit of another triangle here, and you want to get all three phases right.
You do. I mean, for example, if you're playing on hardcore tennis, somebody hits a 100-mile-an-hour serve, you have about 0.6 seconds before that ball gets to you. Well, guess what? In touch tennis, if somebody hits a 100-mile-an-hour serve, you have about 0.6 seconds.
It's the same.
That ball reaches you. Okay?
It's scaled down where some of the other tennis adjacent sports aren't exactly scaled down. For example, it's quite a bit quicker, quite a bit slower.
Right. And I would ask Rashid about this, because we talked about pickleball, and pickleball court's 44 feet. I said, well, why don't you just make it 44 feet? He goes, won't work. It's too long.
It's
You'll
too
never
big.
put the ball away. The rallies go on forever. I said, well, okay. All right. Well, he tested it. I didn't test it.
Yeah.
I have to trust all of the 20 years he's got into this thing. I mean, he started out in 2002 in his backyard, beating up his 5-year-old daughter. These make-believe grand slams and self-proclaimed GOAT, which is just a joke, but it's a funny joke. Yeah. And, we have a brand of rackets and gear with GOAT. But anyway, that's the whole basis of the sport is to democratize tennis. Rashid's goal was to make the sport available to anybody. To make a sport you can play anywhere you want. You can play it in your backyard.
Yeah. You
can play it in your driveway. You can play it on the street. You can play it on the beach. We even have people playing on a hockey rink, ice hockey.
Wow.
These Swedes are out there playing with their skates on.
Incredible.
And that's the beauty of a high bouncing ball. It bounces about half its height. Okay. It's an engineered foam ball, and we control its speed by its compression, how much that ball squeezes. And that's the key to the game. And you can't have a ball that's too slow. You can't have a ball that's too fast. It's kind of like Goldilocks. You have to have
just right.
Just right. So you can't have a racket that's too long.
Yeah.
At 21 inches at a 40-foot court with a ball that speed works for touch tennis.
Steve, our listeners can certainly look up all the specs and all that, but if you could hit us with a paragraph of not just how Rashid developed this amazing game. I'm sure he did a lot of trial and error and all that, but take us through some of the very, very basics. What's the scoring like is one of my questions. Another one is, does the ball rebound about half its height on grass and hard courts and a wood floor? Tell us some of the basics, and then we'll get into some of the real specifics.
Well, he wanted a sport that was easy to play and accessible. So he also wanted it to replicate tennis somewhat. So A set is 4 games in touch tennis.
Okay, instead of we go to 6, it's first to 4.
It's 4.
Yeah, first to 4.
Tiebreaker at 4 all, 9-point tiebreaker. Remember those nail biters we used to play back in the day?
I remember my first tournament was 7-6 in the third, and of course 5-4 in the breaker. Yeah, 5-4.
Right. Well, they're back.
I love it.
And you get 1 serve.
Yeah.
All right. And as soon as that ball is tossed, that serve is in play. If you catch that ball, that's a fault.
Interesting. So you've lost the point.
Yep. Got to hit it. All right. So there's just a couple instances. There are no lets in touch tennis.
Yeah, I noticed some of the pro players who were playing it, it was a let, but the receiver handled it, and they just played just like Division I college tennis now, where you play the let.
Yeah, I mean, a ball can roll on your court, big deal. You know? A plane could land on the court next to you. It's all right. Plays continuous.
Yeah.
You know? And that's just a flavor of the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's also about equality, gender equality. In touch tennis, we don't have a men's singles division.
It's just open and this level, that level.
Mixed singles and women's singles.
Incredible.
Right? So women can play against men because touch tennis neutralizes power.
It does.
So that big foam ball is about 3 inches in diameter, right?
So it's quite a bit. It's a whole inch bigger than a tennis ball.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get to the. You mentioned the foam ball. I remember meeting Larry maybe 4 years ago, 4.5 at a conference. This was, of course, you weren't involved in this sport yet. Rashid is a guy from the UK. He described some of the ways that Rashid has marketed the game to the point where there are prize money tournaments. I didn't realize it was mixed singles. He did talk about how the tour or the circuit is mostly in the UK, but they're looking to go to France, Belgium, all that. And Larry was trying to make a nice play here in the States. My first exposure to it was as not officially touch tennis, but as a 5 or 6 year old playing with foam balls on 2 boxes or 4 boxes. We all kind of grew up that way, didn't we?
Right. That's right.
My second exposure to it was literally 47 years later, or whatever it was, 45 years later, meeting Larry at a conference, and he set up a net on a rainy day in a hotel conference room with a carpet. And I couldn't believe how much fun it was to bound around the court and play smoothly, singles, not doubles, on this tiny court. I didn't realize that the ball was foam single density, not dual like some of the old Dunlop Speed Ball or some of those products. Tell us about, does it bounce pretty evenly or consistently on, let's say, a back garden grass court, which is, of course, the footage that I can't stop smiling about in Rashid's back garden in London suburb somewhere. Tell us about that.
Well, it's a very forgiving ball. It's all foam. Just right up to the camera here, you can see the cell structure of the foam there. And it's a sanded foam. It doesn't have a skin.
I see.
What that does is it makes it very forgiving. So if it hits a sharp object or something, it'll absorb with that foam and still give you a pretty true bounce instead of skewing off in some direction or something. So it's very forgiving. You can have a little bit of gravel in your driveway. You could have whatever lines and ridges and lumpy grass. You want to mow your grass to about a 1-inch length, and it's nice if it's rolled and stuff like that. But you see people playing on anything, and this thing will bounce. I mean, this is a very bouncy ball. So I've played on the beach before.
On sand. So, you've played this on sand.
On sand.
That's fantastic.
You got to replace your divots. There's a little issue with that.
Of course.
But, you can play it on sand. In clay, it's wonderful on clay. So let's get back to Europe for a second. So Europe has taken off on this thing.
Yeah.
There are certainly professional tournaments in the UK, but Spain is the country that is of most interest at the moment. So the RFET, the Spanish Tennis Federation, and arguably the most credible tennis country in the world, has adopted touch tennis. And this year, 2021, they will host 10 professional events, ranging from 3,000 euros to 5,000 euros. They've already had 2. I think they have another one in a week or 2, expanding that to 20 events in 2022. And they're also going to include a World Team Championship in Barcelona in 2022, where each country can supply up to 3 teams of 2 men and 2 women in each team.
So kind of like a Davis Cup and a Fed Cup or Billie Jean King Cup at the same time, where
Right.
it's both genders. In that, is it still mixed singles, or women play women, men play men?
No, there will be women's singles and men's singles and mixed doubles, and there'll be a couple of hitches, a couple of wrinkles in there to make it particularly interesting. All right.
I look forward to
your typical Ryder Cup or Fed Cup or Davis Cup type of thing.
Yeah.
It'll be neat. It'll be fun. But what is intriguing about it is, Spain is really noticing that player development is faster with touch tennis rather than the transition ball, red, orange, green.
Yeah, interesting.
And this is the case I want to make to America, to the USTA, and we have a lot of interest from the USTA right now. This is fast track. Touch tennis is fast track to get onto the tennis court.
It is.
Because, little Johnny has got to go from 3 balls and 3 courts, and he's still not playing tennis.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
Get him on the tennis court. I mean, with a 21-inch racket and this ball, they're hitting balls within 10 minutes, and they're learning topspin immediately.
Amazing.
Because this ball takes all the topspin and magnifies it, magnifies the underspin. You can hit the slice, you can hit the kick. You can do all that kind of stuff with this ball.
I noticed when a good player hits the crap out of the ball, and I love that because in some of the other tennis-adjacent sports, you're not really hitting the ball. Like you said, it's scaled down perfectly. So some of these guys are ripping the ball, and then the very next ball is a sick little slice drop, and it lands and stops, and that guy better get on his horse and get to it, and half the time they do. So it makes for really interesting points, but it really does look like a small, scaled-down version of pro tennis. So I'm definitely impressed. My next question is...
Can I ask a question?
Well, please, yes.
The only question I have is, can you hit slice? You're talking about topspin. Steve and I are from that era where we didn't hit topspin. It was either flat or slice or underspin.
Speak for yourself, Craig. Topspin backhand, man.
Oh, no.
I was a one-hand topspin backhand back in the 70s. Like people were going, what the hell is that?
I love it.
Some kid from Idaho can hit a topspin backhand.
Topspin one-handed. Love it.
No, sorry.
Bad, man.
Oklahoma, we couldn't do that.
So
anyway,
so Steve's answer about slice, tell it.
Well, this thing takes slice. All those, you've played against guys in tennis, you swear that they're hitting a riser, the ball's coming to you and it's rising, Well, it's a little bit like that with this thing. With this 3-inch diameter ball, I mean, you can get that ball just to skim a long ways, and you are right, AJ. When that ball hits the court, you better be on it, because whatever you saw in tennis, it's going to be magnified with this thing.
It's even more.
Yeah. So you got to be on your toes with it. And it works for grass. It works for clay. It works for all these different surfaces. Guys are hitting mega kick serves on this thing. Kick serves work better than slice.
Right.
Slice tends to sit up. It doesn't slide like a tennis ball does. I'm not sure quite why. It's got to be maybe the friction between the ball and the court surface.
Makes
something
sense.
Like that.
I'm sure it depends a little bit on the court, but I love to hear that both spins are applicable. One of the questions I have is when you play outdoors, granted some of the tour stuff in the UK is indoors, but when you play outdoors, how does the wind affect this foam ball?
In my experience, I haven't seen it be too bad, but it does affect it. It's a light ball and it's a big ball.
It's large, 3-inch, yeah.
Yeah, it can affect it, but keep in mind you're only got 40 feet from one baseline to baseline.
Good point.
Right? So, again, it's all kind of scaled down. Yes, it could magnify more because it's lighter and bigger, but no, because it has shorter distance to go. But I'll tell you, you can wail on this thing. The topspin will bring it in play. What you'll find is you're going to end up lifting the ball more on a topspin stroke.
Interesting.
Which is pretty good fundamental for people to learn. When you're hitting topspin, you got to come under the ball, And that's a good fundamental stroke to learn how to do. So
that really sets you up for success in full court tennis. Tell me when Rashid engineered the idea of 40 feet exactly, that's almost a tennis court, right? Meaning the two service boxes are 21 and there's the net, then another 21, so it's 42. So let's say somebody is putting pickleball lines like Craig does at this club. It's about a foot after the service lines. In this game, the line is a foot inside the service lines. Is the net the same, or is the net a bit lower?
The net is about 3 inches lower than pickleball.
Okay.
The sidelines, the outside double sidelines of touch tennis are the same as pickleball.
I see. The outside and the inside is 3 feet inside?
21 inches. You take your racket,
21.
You put it offset, 21 inches, and there's your single sideline.
Easy. So it's not even 2 feet, actually. Yeah, 21. Right. Interesting. So it's just kind of a little over 1.5 feet, a little under 2 feet. Yeah. The dimensions work, in my view. As a guy who used to be quick and is no longer quick, there is something psychologically appealing about a smaller court. However, in, let's say, pickleball or padel, there's some running. Padel is totally different because you play it off the walls. But let's sort of take 1 minute. This is a 1 minute exercise and compare touch tennis with pickleball. I see, and the sounds of pickleball are different, of course. It's more of a plastic-on-plastic feel. This sport, you get to spin the ball both ways, as we mentioned, but it seems to me that there is more running and less bending in this sport. What would you think of that, and how would you compare the two?
Well, the thing that, pickleball certainly has a right to exist. It's been very popular, and I think it attracts a lot of racket people, but maybe more non-racket people, because anybody can go on a pickleball court and puck, and get the ball in play. What I look at with pickleball is it's to me, my first impression, it's a ball that bounces too low with a paddle that's too short.
It is very low, yeah, and the paddle is only this long, yeah. So
people are always bending, the seniors are always bending low, trying to get to the ball. I'm like, you're playing the wrong sport, first of all. So with touch tennis, I compare it to be exactly the opposite of pickleball. Here's a high bouncing ball. Here's a racket that's 21 inches that's a lot lighter than that paddle, and by the way, a lot less expensive. And you can hit the holy crap out of the ball, and it's the complete game. You have a serve, you have a volley, you have a baseline game. Where pickleball tends to be monodimensional. It's like dink, 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 smash, repeat. I know I'm being way overly simplified, okay?
Nothing wrong with that.
Pickleball should probably going, let's tar and feather him, But, so touch tennis probably appeals to more of the tennis player. I'll say that. And touch tennis supports tennis.
That is actually perfectly. That's the next question is pickleball and tennis coexist nicely. Pickleball does take some tennis people. Do pickleballers eventually graduate to tennis? And, of course, the part B of this question is how do people playing touch tennis matriculate into tennis if so desired?
Well, going down to touch tennis to going up to tennis is facilitated for the reasons I gave you.
Yeah.
The speed of the ball, length of racket, dimension of the court, replicate the full court game. So if I'm teaching tennis, for example, I am going to teach a topspin backhand much easier with a foam ball and a 21-inch racket.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, this.
And then when you go to the full court, okay, you got to pay attention. That ball is coming from a long distance away, but the fundamentals are still there, all right? Concerning the crossover between pickleball and tennis, I think what you will find, and I would love to have lines on pickleball courts, and pickleball is doing us a big favor by creating all of these courts that are about the same size as our courts,
right.
And that's wonderful for the future of touch tennis. I think you're going to find that they'll be attractive. I think both sports have a right to exist, is my point.
Beautiful.
They're both great sports. Obviously, pickleball's 4 million players. You cannot deny the popularity of the sport, right? So with tennis, what do we have? 25 million people playing, frequent tennis players now still in the United States, something like that?
I think is that in America or North America in general?
That's United States.
That's just our country. Wow, yeah.
Yeah, it's our country. And from what I understand, I'm not privy to all the stats I used to be privy to, but it's my understanding tennis has grown.
You just call your buddy Haggerty. He'll know all this stuff off the top of his head.
I can. That's right.
That's fun. Hey,
we like that. We like that attraction. I think they both have a right to exist, and touch tennis can be played right next to tennis in an indoor facility without aggravating anybody.
Oh, the noise it actually sounds great. We engineered the sound. In fact,
Rashid is like, did you hear that? Like, hear what? You hear the sound that ball made? I go, well, yeah, I made a sound. No, it's a thwop sound.
It's a thwop.
I got to have the thwop.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we got the thwop sound. All right, fine.
We like that sound, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the equipment. We've talked so much about the ball. Let's get into the racket. It's a 21-inch, generally aluminum, not graphite. And do bigger guys go with a much bigger grip, or do they just buy the the $25 whatever it is racket that you buy off the shelves that's aluminum?
Well, we've had a lot of discussions like that.
You have.
Designer. Let me tell you. So these grips are 3 3/4 inch.
So less than 4 inches. That's tiny.
Less than 4 inches.
Yeah.
And I told Rashid, I go, God, that's way too small. He goes, no, wait a minute. He goes, you play badminton? I go, yeah, I do. Well, badminton grip is like 3.5. He goes, you play squash, don't you? I go, yeah, I do. Well, squash grips are about 3 inches. He goes, in touch tennis, you have so much wrist movement going on, and the sport is so fast. The professional players really like these small 3 3/4 inch grips, which I still challenge. I go, well, yeah, but I got long, skinny fingers.
Yeah.
And, I'm wrapped all over.
They're touching, right?
Give me an overgrip or two if you don't mind, So these are aluminum. What we have done here is we have maximized the length of the handle. So we have created an adult racket that's 21 inches. Okay. So many 21-inch rackets have handles that are this long.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to do with your other hand? And a lot of players still want that second hand for their backhand.
Yeah, for us one-handers, we just go up here with the second hand. But I noticed a lot of pro touch tennis players go double-handed on the backhand, yeah.
They do. And there's one guy in England that has the second hand way up here.
Up top.
He's doing that kind of thing. And he's pretty good at it. So my philosophy is this. Look, I want to give you as much head size and as much handle length as I can. Right? That's what I would like to do.
And which means the tiniest shaft, throat area, but long grip, huge head.
That's what we'd like to do.
Yeah.
And so we have another racket that we're introducing that's aluminum that has an inch longer handle than this. All right. And it's even more powerful than this one. This is a goat rampage racket.
I see the goat stencil, and the goat is
on the butt cap.
There it is.
Cool.
So GOAT, a reference to Rashid himself.
Yeah, it is. And then right on the throat, it says "Stay humble."
Stay humble.
It's just kind of a cute little play on words. But so this is, a $39 aluminum racket. That's kind of high, but it's got a high quality, pure polyurethane grip. It's got a hard foam handle. It can take the rigors of the professional game at 21 inches. All right.
All right. My next question, the strings, are they cheap synthetic, or is there any advantage to using a better string? Example, I hit fine with crappy cheap poly. I hit okay with the synthetic gut, but for me in regular tennis with the felt real ball, to have gut and poly is the greatest thing in the world. Any advantages to a great string job?
If you ask Rashid, he will say yes.
He will.
Because he strings his with natural gut.
I
roll my eyes, I haven't had natural gut since 1976, But the other players are using poly, and they're stringing it up pretty tight. They're doing the same reasons that tennis players do. Because you need control.
Yeah.
And tight string tensions give you control. Stiffer strings give you control. Stiffer strings give you more spin on the ball. But at the same time, we have to be a little bit careful about that because we don't want people shredding up our balls.
Yeah.
So we're going to have rules about the number of strings on a racket.
I see the pattern.
And it's against the rules to have a textured string that can chew up the ball. And I think we need to be a little bit more sophisticated about regulating the rackets. How big is the beam, for example, and how many strings should it have? These are the kind of things that we need to get a little bit more sophisticated about because as the prize money goes up, and we're right now looking at a tournament in Los Angeles, it probably will be a $2,000 tournament in December. You start getting prize money up there, and players start getting serious.
Which means maybe they bend the rules and cheat a little bit.
I was going to ask you, can you use – I just drawing up an outer limits. If you remember that, I'll say a competitor's brand –
massive 135 head.
30 inches long. Is there – so do you all have requirements as far as, head size, length of racket, or is that still TBA?
Well, Craig, they're somewhat self-policing. I mean, at 21 inches and you got to have a handle, what are you going to do? I mean, you can't. If you make the head come all the way down to here, then you have this little handle for 2 fingers. So it's somewhat self-policing.
Okay.
But back in the day when we invented the long body, and you remember those days.
Oh,
Prince, yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
We had this baby.
Yes.
Out there.
The Mach 1000.
The Mach
1000, 29 inches of pure unadulterated power.
That's right.
So at that time, we could go to 32 inches.
Right.
All rackets are 27, and we asked ourselves, well, why? Well, I read the rule like 5 times. It says 32. So why are we at 27?
Right.
Hey, let's make something longer.
Let's go up.
How long can we go?
Right.
So we landed on 29 because that was the longest we can make it and still make it swingable. Otherwise, you had like the Gamma Bubba, big Bubba,
right.
whatever that racket was.
Right.
I mean, you got to hit it to my forehand. Would you please hit it to my forehand so I get my racket back?
That's why I was thinking, okay, well, if there's no limits and you said there's money out there, hey, why don't I bring one of those big rackets that you buy from Prince? I still got a couple of those big ones that stand about this tall. I can just go up there and just stand right there and go.
Like the Dallas Stars goalkeeper, Ben Bishop. The guy is so huge, he just takes up the net. He can defend that.
AJ can see them right there. We have a extender
this big.
Oh yeah,
the head,
and then we have an O-port one
about this tall.
I have a black O-port one, believe it or not, also too. That Steve was responsible for. How many patents did you outright? I
got about 60 patents and a variety of products, including those guitars on the wall back there.
Really? We're going to get to that in the third set. I assume those were just normal guitars, but you have patents on those.
Yeah, I owned a company. I owned a graphite guitar parts company for 10 years, trying to make a revolution that the industry wasn't quite ready for.
What was it? Carbon fiber, kind of a neck?
Those are all carbon fiber. Those are 3 different carbon fiber guitars that we made for various companies as a supplier. And we have a couple patents, I think 3 patents in that. And it was a fun little adventure. I mean, carbon fiber can do a lot of stuff, man. It's so much fun to do stuff in carbon fiber. So, that's my drug. It
is. Of course, your tennis rackets are carbon fiber, of course. Your touch tennis rackets are aluminum. Your guitars are carbon fiber. Your skis are probably what, fiberglass and carbon? What about your bike?
Fiberglass, aluminum. Yeah,
aluminum. Yeah, and what about your bicycle?
Carbon fiber.
And you know all about it, and you probably came up with ideas to improve it, huh?
I have several patents on carbon fiber bikes as well.
Wow, I knew you would. Yeah. That's amazing. Good.
Well, Prince, I started a business there, and it was called OTEC. So we had these big holes in rackets. I don't think I have one here.
Like this?
You remember 03? Thank you, Craig.
There we go. Amazing timing on that, pal.
Look at that.
Played. I knew he would be ready.
He's on it.
I'm going to stand there with touch tennis and go like this. Just go bing, bing, bing. I had, believe it or not, I had an assistant. Before you start talking about an assistant played with this racket, never lost a game of 21. Played our members. They'd bet
unbelievable.
$100 a game right here on this court right here right behind us.
Really?
Never lost playing with this O-port racket, this big racket. Never lost.
Crazy.
So that was
that is beautiful.
Right. But there we go.
That is a gem. Don't ever lose that.
Don't lose that one.
Oh, no. We've had people want to buy it. I was like, no.
I never had one. I have a Thunderbolt.
All right.
Thunderbolt racket.
Yeah, I remember those red Thunderbolts. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to segue into, I'll hold this racket for a second while you talk about it. Or talk about the technology.
It's a really interesting story. As a tennis racket designer, you drill about 72 holes, basically perforate the paper.
Yeah.
You have this wonderful beam, this wonderful racket frame. I'll give you one. I'll show you one here. You probably recognize the shape of this baby.
Of course. That's a Prince Mono, right?
The racket is drilled. This is what the racket looks like. And it's a wonderful structure. And then we go and drill 72 holes in that thing to string it. Well, it all of a sudden became weaker and more flexible. And I kept thinking, well, how can we make a racket without drilling holes? And so the evolution of that was 03. And we were able to mold those ports without cutting any fibers into the racket frame. Mm-hmm. And that made the racket more powerful. It gave the strings more freedom of movement. It made the racket more aerodynamic. And it was a really good technology.
Sounds amazing. I remember when one of the reps, certainly one of your, not a successor on the engineering side, but on the sales side, described to me, my question was, hey, structurally, it has no drill holes, it must be stronger, but is it just stronger this way or also this way? Like when people throw a racket, and he banged a racket on the floor, and he's like, look, this doesn't even have strings in it, and it is weirdly more durable than a traditional drilled racket.
Well, that's true because you have those pillars of support.
Yeah.
They gave it somewhat of a 3D effect, but it did cost some weight to do that. So it wasn't exactly a lightweight technology, but the technology that I developed took that technology and applied it to different things. Like we came up with a hockey stick.
Interesting.
And Reebok took that technology and marketed it for about 5 years under O3. And we had a field hockey stick. We had a lacrosse stick. I have samples of them here in my office. And the most successful product, though, was an archery bow. Hoyt took an archery bow, and it looked like 3 limbs all together, and that made a carbon fiber riser for a compound bow. And they still sell that thing today. So that was kind of a technology offshoot that all came crashing in 2012 when Prince filed Chapter 11.
Yeah. Well, listen, I love that tangent on O3 because that gives us yet another view, yet another window into the mind of Steve Davis. But we've got a really good question from a good friend. His name is Ray Major. He was a brilliant tennis director right here in Dallas years back, and he is in Florida now. And here, I'll read you the question. He says he is looking to trying to have alternatives to pickleball on his tennis courts. They have hartrue, meaning for folks at home, the gray clay that's very common in America. He says, how do we utilize touch tennis? We can't add permanent lines. And a related question will be, what kind of chalk do people use in the back garden? So maybe you can talk a little bit about surfaces that you can't just put lines down on, i.e. clay, hartrue, or a grass court.
Well, so what they do in Spain is they actually take a court up. They take the tape up.
Oh, the lines.
Tape the court. Or they'll tape a court behind the baseline, between the baseline and the fence. Now, you're going 90 degrees from the direction of the court, but you have a complete court you can put in there. For those that just want to put a court on and not take tape up, here's my suggestion. Yeah. You know those little rolly wheels when you brush your lines off?
Absolutely.
So you can roll your lines with that and then take chalk and then chalk that clay with that, because if you have the granules that are on top of the clay, the chalk won't stick. But if you take that little rolly wheel and just zip it along and hit your lines and then come back with chalk or tape.
Yeah.
At that point, you can put masking tape. We use masking tape on hardcourt, and it's fine. For a day of matches, it'll hold up just fine. And if you prepped your clay court with that, I think that tape would work well for you.
Good answer, Ray Major. I hope you got what you needed there. I certainly did, because I want to do that either on dirt or on a backyard where I go down to about an inch of mowing. And I do have a hand mower, the push kind without a motor. Yeah. So, and that allows me to get pretty low if I wanted to. My yard happens to be, I don't have a roller, but I'm definitely doing this, and I'm about to buy a case of balls from you too. So we'll get in touch on that while we're still in the second set. Before we get to future projects, can you tell the people at home, and we'll of course put a link, tell the people at home how to purchase a kit, purchase rackets and foam balls, which are key for you?
Currently, all of our products are sold on Amazon. All right. You go to Amazon, you put in touch tennis, all one word. And then all of our products will come up. We have a net, we have a 4-ball pack, a 12-ball pack, we have a racket, and we have a bag. All right, so those are the products you can buy.
I bet the bag is this big, huh? It's like a racket bag, only little. Here we go. Look at this.
Here's your bag.
It's got a goat. Adorable.
Touch tennis on the back. This is all full of rackets. Man, I got about 20 rackets in this bag, so it's kind of heavy.
He's a professional.
He is. In tennis, that's a 12-pack width. In touch tennis, it's 20.
Ooh, man, 20-pack.
Yeah, you can pack a lot of rackets in this thing. So we'll eventually have an online store, usa.touchtennis.shop. That will be operational within 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Excellent.
So we have all of the products there, and you'll be able to connect to that through Facebook and Instagram.
Tremendous.
So we'll make the shopping experience seamless for folks. Now, as far as the kit goes, we are working on that kit. Yeah. The only kit available today is in the UK. I am close to sourcing the box for the kit. I've got all the products. I just need a box. And so we're having a little bit of a challenge with that. I think we'll have a kit within a month.
Tremendous, right? Tremendous. And the kit idea, of course, I'm, a veteran of tennis. I don't actually remember this, but I do recall my dad or my granddad talking about Walter Clopton Wingfield, who's credited as being one of the inventors of the game as we know it, tennis, like lawn tennis. He had what they called a tennis box, and it had a couple of everything: frames, strings, balls, methods to make net, this kind of net, and posts and everything. And that's what I envision when I see you making a kit for this. When you say in 2 weeks, when people get that kit?
4 weeks, I think.
4 weeks.
We still haven't got the box made yet.
4 weeks, I gotcha.
But it's coming.
Hey, when people grab this on Amazon and they get it at home, how do they do it? Describe what it's going to be like, if you can give us a little view.
It'll be a beautiful box. I mean, the print will be of our professional athletes, men and women playing the game. So there'll be a real inspirational type of package that shows up on the front doorstep. You open that up and you'll see the all white cardboard. You'll see a tube of these balls here. So it'll be a 4-pack of white balls.
Okay.
You know, white is our color, folks. The white ball, love it. And you'll see 2 rackets, 2 of the GOAT rackets here in there. And there'll be a compact net. All right. And the net is a 20-foot net that goes from the outside sideline to the other outside sideline. And then included will be chalk. Okay. So you'll get some chalk in there so you can make up your own court lines on the grass or on the hard court. So, and then there'll be some print on there about court dimensions. There'll be a couple things on rules. Of course, website addresses and stuff like that. Yep. All in one box, all in about a 25-inch box.
What a cool idea. You are already going into this last question of the second set, which is, tell us about the future projects within Touch Tennis USA. And then if you'd like, tell us about future projects that are yours that are outside Touch Tennis USA.
You know, Touch Tennis, it has taken me a year to prepare the company for growth. It has taken a long time. We have legal formation of an LLC, management company I've put together, and investors. We have investors in Touch Tennis USA.
Great.
We're building a foundation anticipating explosive growth. You know, what I don't want to do is get this product so popular and we can't support it with product.
Makes sense.
And we're having a supply chain issue right now, as everybody else is in tennis. You know, tennis balls, rackets, bags, anything that has to come over in a container from Asia is really hard to source. And if you get it, it's probably really expensive. We have the same growing pains with that. So, but we're in pretty good shape. We're ready to grow. And how we're going to grow this sport is by using ambassadors. It's the way Prince was built in the early days. And Craig knows this all so well. The people that run events, that have the authority to run events. So if you're an ambassador for Touch Tennis USA, you'll need to purchase a license. It's not expensive. It's $600 a year. For $600, you'll get a kit, a product, an ambassador kit. That would include 3 nets, 4 rackets, 24 balls, and a bag. All right, it's worth $800. So I mean, it's a great deal, and that gives you the tools to run events. Plus, you'll be trained. You have to be trained.
Makes sense. You don't want low information people out there running an event just because it's fun.
That's right. I mean, that training will involve the website, touchtennis.com. When you register for a tournament as an ambassador, people will pay registration fees. Those ambassadors will keep 85% of all registration fees. Ambassadors are going to keep 100% of all local sponsorship, and they have the right to purchase product at wholesale.
Smart.
So they have a lot of ways to make money. And that touchtennis.com site will print draws for you. So if you're running an event, it'll seed everybody because everybody gets global rankings. So we have Americans right now that have global ranking points. We've had a tournament in Nashville, a tournament in Charlotte. We had a tournament in LA. Those were global ranking points that were awarded to Americans. So Americans are, climbing up the ladder, but those weren't heavy point tournaments, but they will be. Like that LA tournament coming up in December, we want that to be a Master Series event. With a Master Series event, you can get some points going, all right? And you can actually make some money, $500 to the winner of that event. So that's how we're going to grow that sport. I think, AJ and Craig, once we start bringing this prize money up and getting the people's awareness and getting some players going, getting a few ambassadors signed up. We have one ambassador right now in LA. We have people interested in Phoenix, Arkansas, Alabama, Florida. I hope in Dallas we have some ambassadors down there. Come on, man. Pump it up, guys.
AJ and I, we're going to be your first here in Dallas.
Love it.
Love it.
We're going to
I just think it's going to go kaboom on us, and I want to be ready for that kaboom. So that's what we're doing. I'm
happy you've prepped for it. We're excited to spread the word about it. And me, I just enjoy playing it so much. And I can't wait to play with the real deal rather than just whatever I have in the garage in terms of 21s and foams. So we're gonna get Amazon and get on it.
Right.
I appreciate you're talking about the future of the game because it sounds like there's a massive future. Let's go to the third set. What do you say, CB?
Should we?
I think we should. Who's sponsoring this third set, my man?
Well, besides Master Systems, let's say Touch Tennis.
Touch Tennis.
Touch Tennis is a sponsor of our third set because we're here with Steve Davis because he's, we're going to get involved in this.
You know what's so funny is what you just did in the past. That was basically an ad read in the past 14 seconds. You have guaranteed that he's going to send us a box or two.
Right.
I love it.
I just want to get.
I saw that happen right in front of my very eyes.
Did you? He's amazing.
How did he do that?
I went to school for it, and he's the one who did it. Isn't that great?
You guys just think I'm a pretty face.
You are not just another pretty face,
I got
buddy.
some substance.
He's got it.
Right. Now, AJ is going to be disappointed because, Steve, you talk about texture. His favorite word is texture. And there's no texture involved in this. So I don't know, But I like the word convivial, and it's a very convivial sport. So I'm in. So
CB, it's both.
Oh,
it's
is it?
both.
Oh,
There's
okay.
texture to this game. There's a lot of variety, a lot of curving the ball. We're going to use texture. He's joking because he couldn't stop giggling when I used that word. We were doing courtside commentary.
Right.
Was it? I think it was tennis, not pickleball. That one.
Yeah, maybe a year
We've
ago.
done more tennis than pickleball, but it was. So I said, "My goodness, the game on this kid," and she's got that. There's a lot of texture going on in this point or this the style of tennis, and he just couldn't stop giggling. And here we are, still talking about
Still
it.
talking about texture and conviviality. That's a Rick Steves. I don't know if you watch the European Travel Guide. He's very convivial. That's his his word. So I picked up that word.
So funny.
Convivial.
Your vocabulary is way over my head.
No, I'm from Oklahoma. Well, anyway, we're getting back to Touch Tennis.
Yes.
It's the sponsor of the third set along with Master Systems. That'd be our good buddy Blair Descaray with Master Systems. He's a local guy. I'm sure he might be able to put up a Touch Tennis.
He builds basketball, tennis, obviously, pickleball, padel. He can do all the, and of course, the touch tennis dimensions. Easy to do.
We're going to get him to build a touch tennis court for us.
Let's do it, man. I've got a backyard ready, not big enough for a tennis court, but definitely big enough for touch tennis.
I think it'd be fun to do. Well, now we've got our indoor facility, Steve. You can see two courts here. We have two courts over on the other side. We have an upstairs area as well that has a great viewing area that we've had a lot of parties, and so I think it'd be fun to do a touch tennis tournament here.
I've always enjoyed the table tennis up there, but who needs table tennis when who can just put down the court of a touch tennis?
No, I think it'd be fun.
Because it is big enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's big.
Upstairs, I got about 4,000 square feet right above us, so we could put a touch tennis.
I bet we could do two courts, but let's start with one.
Let's start with one.
Yeah.
We can have a good time. But
fantastic.
We're going to make that happen. So we promise that touch tennis is on our future projects to-do list, and then also with Master Systems Player Descaray. So, all right.
Love it. Hey, we're about to go three sets within the third set. CB, take it away, bud.
All right. So this is the music portion of, and we're going to talk about your guitars there. First band that little Stevie saw in concert. Who's your first band?
God, I'll tell you what, it was probably Commander Cody and the Lost Planet Airmen.
Wow, this is what, late '60s up in Idaho?
Yeah, guys, I'm almost embarrassed. Them and Jerry Jeff Walker. Hey, you're talking to Idaho, guys. Yeah. What did you expect?
Yeah, the Northwest, man.
Home of Napoleon Dynamite and Commander Cody. Now, have you heard of Commander Cody? AJ pulls these references out all the time.
I only know that it was from late '60s. I've only read about it, but I've never actually, seen the band or bought the.
He's going to go home and look it up.
I haven't seen them. I think it's just it's a down and dirty band. He only had about 2 hits.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know, there's an 8-track of Commander Cody on eBay, and I will scope that out tomorrow morning. Just for you, man.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna catch heat for that. I can tell.
Commander Cody.
I love it.
I'd never heard that. Jerry Jeff Walker. He's
everybody knows that name. Yeah.
That's a pretty more formidable name in the music world. If you could hear a band in concert, all right, and I don't know if you're a big concert guy. Obviously, if you go to Commander Cody, he'll go just about to anything. Would you like to hear a certain band in concert?
Rolling Stones.
Oh,
the Stones.
Yeah, I went to them actually
Did you really?
2 years ago. Went to them in New York.
Oh,
My
wow.
son took me there.
Ah, interesting.
And I listened to the Stones, and it was fantastic. Loved it.
So would you want to see them maybe at Wembley back in England, or where would you like to see the Stones?
I don't care.
Yeah, just
I
anywhere.
would see them anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, they had 60-foot high murals. I mean, the LCD screens, and when that guitar hit, you could feel your hair vibrate. And we were 100 yards away. I mean, they were really fun, and I just had a great time with that.
When I saw the Stones, I could feel Keith Richards' hair vibrate.
You're right.
And Mick. Yeah.
It was wonderful. It was electric, literally.
The best.
It was fun.
I can't believe that guy. He's pushing 80, isn't he? I think Mick and the guys.
Both
Ronnie.
those guys, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
and they're still going. I mean, they still
Still
have. They still.
Man, Mick is fit. That guy can sing, dance. He could kick over his head. He's amazing.
Oh.
You better believe it. Yeah.
Favorite band? Are the Stones your favorite band, or do you have another favorite?
No, probably not. I mean, I do listen to them a lot.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of Neil Young.
Neil Young.
Canadian,
Neil Young.
amazing, yeah.
I tell you why. Because in Idaho, when we're growing up, we're going up to school to Moscow from Boise. It's a 300-mile drive. We'd load up the Shadow, which was my 1965 Ford Mustang, with three of us, and all of our stuff included skis and tennis rackets and whatever we're going to be living in for a semester in that car, which I still can't believe we got all that stuff in there. And we listened to Neil Young the whole way.
Mm.
And that was kind of what we did. Neil Young and Bachman Turner Overdrive. And, I'm still an oldies 70s rock and roll guy.
Love it.
Yeah.
BTO, yeah.
Love BTO. Yeah, they were good. Neil Young, I'm okay with him, but I appreciate and respect his music because he is one of the true icons.
He really is. Yeah.
He's not one of my favorite, but BTO, that's more my style. I'm a little faster on the beat right there. So do you like all types of music? Are you
I do. I'm not a real big rap fan. I got to tell you, I do like a rhythm, and I do like to hear a nice guitar. So.
Yeah,
that's it. I don't really play guitar either, so don't even ask me.
I assumed you played them, but you just design them and build them out of carbon fiber.
I had an engineer that worked for me, Rich Janes, God rest his soul. Rich was one of the most innovative engineers in the tennis industry. He worked for Penn and Spalding and had a bunch of patents himself, and he was a guitarist, and he got me into that carbon fiber guitar business.
But you never played them?
Never. I could play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. It's after practicing for a day and a half. Right?
You had actual notes. Whenever I played guitar, it's just three chords that I know.
Smoke on the Water.
I
think everybody played Smoke on the Water.
Sure.
Deep Purple.
On an electric, even on the Casio, I knew that one. But just three chords, and somehow you just go your whole life, and I never learned it. It's sad.
Yeah.
But I love guitar too.
So next question then. So this tells a lot about personality. This is the one that's kind of a true, I think, question that really understands about the people we've talked with.
Yeah.
All right. So if you were in a band, would you be like the lead singer like Mick? Would you be the lead guitarist like old Richie? Maybe drummer, keyboards, bassist, glockenspiel player? I'm a professional glockenspiel player.
Really?
I play the guy and the clipboard. At the same time.
Plays it well.
Yeah, so where are you in the lineup?
I'm the lead singer.
You are up front, man.
There we go.
I'm the lead singer. In fact, I used to be the in our fraternity at college. I would be the guy that would be the one that would be serenading because all the other guys didn't want to sing, and we had to go to these sororities and sing something. Right? So I'd be the one that would sing, and I could carry it too. My dad was a preacher. He was an Episcopalian minister, and he was a singer. So maybe I got my vocals from him. I don't know, but.
Interesting.
I'm a kind of an introvert extrovert guy.
Both.
It depends on when you get me. I can be very quiet and introverted, and like Neil Young, and live by myself as a hermit in the hills, or I could have the lampshade on my head at a party or something, you know.
Like John Belushi?
Animal House. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see the Idaho Vandals. I could see him in a fraternity up
For
there.
sure.
They had the Animal House up there.
They did.
Up in Moscow.
That was quite a Greek life up there, I got to tell you.
And a lot of cold weather, so a lot of adult beverages were probably being consumed. Yeah, consumed.
Indoor sports and
You
adult.
guys would like this. So we had an indoor football stadium, looked like a beer can on its side, right? The Kibbe Dome.
It was like this.
And they would roll up the carpet, and there was 5 tennis courts, 3 basketball courts, and the track and field and the baseball team all practicing at the same time. So we'd have these dual matches, and the court surface was that pebbleized tartan rubber,
Yeah.
you know, and that was slower than clay.
Right.
And then the balls would fluff up, and the tennis ball would be about this size.
It would get huge.
About 3 games.
Yeah.
And talk about not being able to put the ball away.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was quite an experience. That was quite a home court advantage back there in the Kibbe Dome.
Yep. I've heard about that experience. I've never been up there. I only got as far as Boise. I only could get that far up. We never went that extra 300 miles.
Yeah, that northern Idaho area.
Yeah, our coach, I guess he
It
didn't want to
wouldn't
play.
be worth it.
It wasn't
It's not
worth it? No, I always wanted to go up there. I thought it'd been fun to go. Did you all go all over the place? Did you go to Montana State?
Well, the Big Sky and all those people. We would go to the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, Oregon State. We'd work our way down through California. One time, we took a Volkswagen van from Moscow, Idaho, all the way to Arkansas to play at the University of Arkansas. Wow. With teams in between, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine 8 guys in a Volkswagen van all the way to Arkansas?
And all your rackets and gear.
Right.
Wow.
And just to get our asses handed to ourselves. I mean, they just cleaned us up. I mean, it's like, thanks for coming, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's
that was great, though. That's
Man,
what's great about college tennis.
70s college tennis when when your team van is a VW microbus.
He's
That's
had a
the
VW
best.
bus.
That was actually my first car in it was a 71, but it was in 85 when I was 16. Yeah.
Right.
Love that. The engine in the back and the steering wheel is like a bus right here. What a great car.
Was it 4 on the
It
floor?
was a lot of fun.
4. Yeah. 4 over here. And the stick shift was about that tall.
Oh, yeah. It was a big one.
And the bus, the wheel was like a bus. And the handbrake wasn't here. It was here.
Ah.
Strange, weird little car, but I loved it.
Yeah. Good times there. All right. Second part of this set.
Yeah.
First paid gig. What was Steve doing in Moscow, Idaho? Were you a paper boy? Were you working at the local tennis shop, Kibbe Dome?
Well, I mostly mowed lawns when I was underage, so that's where I got all my money. And then as I got into college, my summers were I was an engineer actually, working for a local construction company, Morrison Knudsen. I was doing counting the number of doors and windows on buildings they were doing as an estimator, basically. And then I also taught tennis. I did that a little bit, but these are just jobs to whatever fill the time. And anytime I could play a tournament, I'd go out and play a tournament in the summer. I mean, that's all I wanted to do was play tennis. And I could teach tennis, but I didn't quite have the patience to be a country club pro like you guys. Like, I just didn't have the patience to do that.
I also don't have the patience to do that.
Wow.
Craig is an amazing 24-year veteran of this club.
Almost
plus,
25.
Plus some of the things you did at the other clubs. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Tremendous.
Yeah, I had a lobotomy back in 1989, and so I really don't know what I'm doing. I just kind of fake it. Favorite movie or TV show? What do you like? Do you watch movies?
Yeah, what do you watch?
Are you that kind of person, or do you just watch YouTube, all that kind of stuff?
No, I don't do that kind of stuff. I do watch TV shows. Mostly, I'm a sports nut. I'll watch almost any kind of sport. I just was always intrigued with that. And I like science fiction. I mean, I love the old Star Trek series
Ooh, yeah.
with Captain Kirk and Bill Shatner, all that kind of stuff. I mean, those to me were the greatest times.
Live long and prosper.
I can almost do that.
Right hand, I can do it.
Lefty, too.
Can't do it on my left hand, but I can do it on my right hand. Live long and prosper. Yeah.
I can see that's amazing. So, I mean, I like documentaries. I still like to learn, guys. But I can't read a book. I can't sit down and read a book. I'm actually writing a book.
Oh, are you really? What's it about?
What's it about? Yeah.
It's going to be about designing tennis rackets.
Tremendous.
Throughout my career and all of these stories that happened, and dealing with some of the professional players and behind the scenes kind of things, and what it took to develop a technology. And like the napkin idea, you know, that was quite an interesting development. Or, you know, how I got gray hair developing the Vortex or long body. And I mean, Prince was an innovator, and Prince let us do whatever we wanted to do. And by God, sometimes we did crazy stuff. You know, like the double strung racket. I'm looking at it right now. I keep it in my rack of rackets here. You know, because we had a guy that came in with literally at the Atlanta Super Show, trench coat, opens it up and goes, "Hey, buddy, I got one. You want to see something interesting?" I'm like, don't show me. You know?
I always wondered how you strung, if it broke a string, how you strung.
Oh, the double strung?
Yeah.
You string the first one and it's easy.
Right.
Then when you flip it, you better have the weaving is rough. So basically the first one takes you 15 minutes.
Yeah.
The second side takes you about 40.
I could never figure that out. I was always stumped.
That was rough.
I saw that rack and I was like,
Yeah.
Terrible.
No, I got a name for your book. All right. Now I just thought about this. So there's Elton John, Rocket Man.
Rocket Man, the Racket Man.
There we go. Racket Man.
Racket Man.
Now, you can use that if you want to. It's free. So
Thank you. I do like Elton John.
Yes.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So
Big tennis supporter he is, too.
No,
he was great.
Steve taught me a lot about rackets that I still use to this day. Believe it or not, you know, I learned a lot when I was at Prince, and I have a wall of demos up on. We special order everything, but my education from Prince and Steve Davis, I mean, it was unbelievable. You know, I can go in there and I start talking rackets, and their eyes start spinning.
Yeah. We geeked out a little bit yesterday over here.
Right.
The young lady we were talking to was like, "Oh wow, there's more to it than just this grip size and that head size."
Yeah, we got a little too far into it, so we just stopped there for a second. But I got an interesting question about Maria Sharapova, because I know she used that O-port technology. Did she have an interesting story? You know, to go along with it, or did she just like the racket?
Several, actually, with Maria. I mean, Maria, you know, came to the IMG Academy, Nick Bollettieri's, when she was 7 or 8 years old. And Kenny Merritt, who was our promotions manager at the time, a.k.a. Smiley Bones. Mm-hmm. Kenny Merritt he was their director of coaching at Bollettieri's. Guy knows so much about tennis and the biometrics and biomechanics of tennis. And he became very close with Maria. And of course, Maria was, the academy was Prince, and then therefore Maria became Prince. And Maria was pretty tightly controlled by her father.
Yuri, right, yeah.
And the struggle we had with almost every professional player, Jimmy Connors was the same way. Jimmy Connors was influenced by his good old buddy Bill, you know. And Bill had no idea what was going on a tennis court, but Jimmy would listen to Bill's recommendations on equipment, and we would roll our eyes. But with Maria, her father would mandate what she would play with. And one day we got Maria on the court, and what we would do with a player is optimize the inertia of the racket. But what that I mean is you want a racket that is fast but stable. Well, those are kind of incompatible, right? You want fast, you have fast. You want stable, you can have stable. How do you get both? And it was all about weight distribution. And we would go 3 and 9 o'clock, 10 and 2 o'clock underneath the handle. And we would work with the player and also ask them about what was important to them. Was it a serve? Was it a return? Was it ground strokes? Is the volley important to you? All that stuff would go into whatever mental equation that Kenny and I would figure out. And we'd watch the weight of the ball when they're rallying, the weight of the ball. Hard thing to describe, but it has to do with trajectory and spin. And when that ball bounces off the court, like for one time I rallied with Yvonne Lendl, and the weight of his ball was far greater than any person on the planet I had ever hit with. And he had been retired 5 years. And I couldn't even rally with him. I mean, the weight of his ball was so big. But anyway, back to the court with Maria, and we had tuned her racket, I thought, really well. And she was hitting some big groundies, but she could still hit a serve. With Maria, her serve was rather susceptible, as you well know.
Yeah.
That high ball toss and everything. Mm-hmm. So we couldn't jeopardize her serve. And I thought we had her at a really good spot. And then her father shows up and erases everything we had done.
Really?
Mm. And he kind of like, would you just let the experts do what we're supposed to do? You know? And maybe, you know, that player might play better. But it would be time after time, there was always somebody around a marquee player that was influential, and maybe not always in a positive way.
I see. Interesting.
So anyway, that was ours. But Maria, I'll tell you what, she's a really nice young woman. You know, we were at the U.S. Open one time. My daughter goes up to her and asks her to babysit. You know, Miss Maria, will you babysit tonight? And she was, you know, Maria kind of steps back. She goes, really? That young girl just asked me that? And, you know, she was very kind. She goes, no, I'm sorry, dear. I'm doing something tonight, but thank you anyway. You know, so Maria was really a nice person. I gotta say.
She was not up for making $20 an hour as a babysitter for little kids.
I have to pay her babysitting rates, like, huh? You know?
Yeah, $20 a second that girl makes.
Well, and what we paid her annually, like,
Yeah, that's a lot.
Does that count as an appearance?
Yeah, that's an appearance.
She should do a couple of nights, you know, babysit for that. I got a quick question also, too, because you said Jimmy Connors, and it got me thinking about, I'm going to go down this rabbit hole, too. That, you know, T2000, he played with for years. How'd you get him over to the Prince Mono? That's got to be, those two rackets aren't, you know, they don't go together.
Well, in Jimmy's mind, they did.
Really?
Right? And that's where the story starts and ends. I mean, so this is the Prince Mono. I don't have a cosmetic version of it, but you can imagine that kind of looks like a T2000, although T2000 is about that big.
Right. Yeah.
So here's the story, and it's an interesting one. When we were developing the double-strung racket, we ran into some aerodynamic problems that we didn't anticipate. When you swing that racket with two planes of strings, all of a sudden they start whistling. And you can't swing it very fast. And so we had an engineer and a Kiwi that worked for me, Andre Terzaghi, and he said, why don't you just make a monoshaft? I said, well, that's stupid. That won't work. He goes, yes, it will. I've done all the equations, and he showed me all the equations.
Really?
But, you know, as a tennis player, you know, you grew up with a wooden racket, and I played Stan Smith. I go, that can't be as stable as an open throat racket. You're nuts. Yeah. You know, it can't work. He goes, it will work. So we made one. And just out of like, hey, let's see if Mikey likes it. We go out to Las Vegas, and Michael Chang, you know, he would never get off the graphite. I mean, he was weaned on the Prince graphite. Yeah. You know, he couldn't get off that Prince graphite, just like Agassi couldn't get off the Prince graphite. We go on the court, and he tries the mono, and he loves it.
Jimmy.
No.
Oh, Michael. Yeah.
It's the end of the story.
Right.
To Jimmy.
Oh,
right?
Good.
So Michael loves the mono. He loves it so much that he doesn't want anybody to use the mono on tour for a year.
Proprietary. He wanted it to be him.
He wanted an exclusive on the racket. So in other words, we couldn't sell the racket except to Michael, you know, for a year. And we go, what? No one's ever asked for that, you know? So we go back and talk to the elders, Council of Elders, and they allow it. So we begin to prepare the launch for the mono, because you can imagine trying to sell a racket that looks like this, unless you have pro endorsement and a really good pro, there's no one's going to believe you, you know? But if we had a top 10 pro that was winning, playing this racket, we felt we could sell it. So we tell Michael, you got your 1 year exclusive. He shows up the 1992 German Open, loses first round to Karbacher.
Bernd Karbacher, I remember him, yeah.
Never picks the racket back up. Meanwhile, launch plans are in place. Mono is launched in June, and nobody cares. Okay.
A thud. There's like a big thud.
One person cared. But we didn't know that yet.
I see.
But as we were developing the mono, we decided, well, this is so aerodynamic. What can we do with that weight savings and aerodynamics? Wait a minute. Let's make the racket longer. Why not make the racket longer? So this was the start of long body. This is a story that a failed technology ended up developing a really valuable technology. Back to Michael, longer mono. You like that? Yeah, I do. But can you do it in the graphite?
Of course.
Back to New Jersey, make it longer. Back to Las Vegas. Okay, Michael. Now this is going on months, right? Here's your longer graphite. You like it? He goes, yeah. And now I want an exclusive on this too.
Of course.
And we did. And we gave Michael a 1 year exclusive on a long body Michael Chang graphite. And he played it for a year and nobody knew it. And he went from 10 in the world to 2. And at one point in time, he was leading the ATP Tour in aces. I don't know if you remember that. This is like 1994. Okay?
I do. And a year or two later, U.S. Open final.
Right.
Yeah,
and he was playing, I think, Patrick Rafter, I think, or semifinal or something like that. Anyway, here's this point in my story.
Yeah.
Come along to the Philadelphia Indoor. Now it's February of that same year. Michael's got a practice court And we're getting Pete Sampras is coming off the court, and Michael's going to play with his brother, and Jimmy shows up. And he goes to Max Brownlee, our promo manager. He goes, "Hey, Max, you got the mono?" Max goes, "Yeah. Let me try that. Hey, Michael, you want to hit some?"
Wow.
So here are Michael and Jimmy. And Michael is got the secret long body racket. Jimmy's asking to play the mono that Michael still has the exclusive on. So we have to turn to Michael and go, "Hey, is it okay if Jimmy uses the mono?"
Yeah.
Mike goes, "Yeah, that's okay." So the two rally for 15 minutes. I'm just watching this going, holy shit. 15 minutes, Jimmy goes, "Max, I love it. Let's do a deal."
Amazing.
Wow.
It was that easy.
Well done.
And the rest is history.
Jimmy played it for years, and then I tried to get him off that racket. In fact, I go to his house one time to work with him, and I'm on court with him, and we're hitting balls, and I'm showing him how much better the Thunderbolt is than that mono. He goes, "That's bullshit, Steve. Get over here." He grabs me by the shoulder,
Yeah.
pulls me into the court, and he's hitting these balls with the mono.
Yeah.
And he switches to the Thunderbolt, and he goes, "See?" I go, "What? I have no idea what you're showing me." He
Yeah.
goes, "You have no idea what you're talking about.
No feel.
Mono's better." And, so the most finicky players can be the easiest or the most impossible to deal with. So anyway, that was a fun story.
What a remarkable story.
Interesting.
Thanks for asking that,
Yeah,
CB.
no, I just heard that,
Steve,
and I was
thank
like,
you.
there's got to be a good story on that. Let's get back to our second line of questions here.
Yeah.
Breakfast, lunch, or dinner? What are you? Are you a breakfast guy? Breakfast guy.
Early
I'm
morning.
a morning guy. I wake up at the crack of dawn, I catapult out of bed, usually get on a bike and do a 20-miler and get back in.
Awesome.
And have some granola and a banana.
Love it, man.
So are you on the road, or are you like on a Peloton?
I'm on the road.
You're outside, even in the cold, huh?
Well, it doesn't get that cold in
That's true. In North Carolina, your winters are mild, yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad, but I do watch the weather. I mean, if it gets below 40, your Stevie boy stays inside.
I see.
It's a little too chilly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now, speaking of food, we always like to ask this question. And there would be four people. We know AJ and I would be invited to this soiree. We call it a soiree, or actually I do, since that's a great word also, too, from Oklahoma. Not a party, a dinner party, but a soiree. Who would you invite from I got a couple ideas who you might invite. We know AJ and I will be there, but just, some dinner guests that might be of interest that
Steve, any era in history, today, any industry, any era.
It can be Mr. Spock too,
I'll tell you what, I already let the cat out of the bag earlier, and
Okay.
I would invite Howard Head.
Okay, yeah, he'd be
And
great.
here's a man that revolutionized two sports in his lifetime. And he didn't do it until he turned 70. I mean, he invented the metal ski, and then when he was in the 80s, he invented the oversized racket. I would just like to talk to him. Mm-hmm. And he was working on some bicycle technology, and then he died. I mean, what is in that man's mind? I mean, that is brilliant type of stuff. I mean, like an Albert Einstein would be boring to me because he's way too smart, But to take technologies that exist and apply it to a sporting goods product, that to me is fodder for a whole night of conversation. So I would do that. I would love to have Jim Easton as well. I met him one time, but I would love to have a younger Jim Easton. I mean, this guy was a metallurgist beyond any kind of metallurgist. He invented the metal hockey stick, and he still has a proprietary aero technology that is proprietary to the Easton family that they'll never let out. And he still provides all the arrows to the Olympic team and to archers around the world.
Yeah.
He still does his thing in Southern California, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He still held on to that. He sold Easton, but he held on to the aero business himself. So, I mean, those are the pioneers that to me are really interesting. And then the other part of that, Craig, is I find actors to be very smart. I think to be an actor, my daughter's an actor in Hollywood, but still the people, they rarely go to school. They rarely go to college. Yet they are incredibly intelligent, at least the ones that I admire. And I would love to, have them out to dinner as well,
What a good
they look
group.
nice, like a Jessica Alba. That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be all right if I invited her and you guys. That'd be
My friend, you've got great taste.
Right. and good eyesight.
And good eyesight. And what? Craig always asks, what will you be serving at this soiree?
Yes.
Probably tacos.
Tacos. Convivial, friendly, handheld street food, right?
Well, I tell you what, this is so funny because we lived in Italy, when Benetton owned Prince and stuff. We would have taco night. And the Italians, they love to talk with their hands, but you ask them to eat with their hands? It's like, oh, no va bene, no va bene.
No va bene.
Do they like tacos over there? Could you find a taco?
They don't like tacos, but we found a store that had tortillas, and of course we could make it up from there, right?
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
Easy enough. You're right.
Yeah.
They thought that refried beans was dog food.
Look.
It's like, ooh.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. In Italy, they don't eat pizza like the New York fold.
Really?
Like a taco.
Like fingers?
In Italy, they eat it properly with fork and knife, right?
Knife and fork.
Yeah, crazy.
Really? That's
Yes, that's right.
interesting. All right. So that's actually a good group right there.
That's a great group,
sitting down and
we're going to learn a lot in this one.
Yeah, that's why we always ask this question, because it really talks a lot about a person and what they're thinking and who they really look up to. So
it's a very revealing question. Yeah,
we've never had Howard Head and Jim Easton on our podcast guest list.
Nobody knows about them.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about them but me.
No,
I'd be talking to them, and you guys would be you're playing cards or sleeping or something.
No,
I think you did Jessica. That's what
we'd be involved in all this.
Another actor. Who would you invite as another actor? Is there like John Wayne, Will Rogers, somebody like that, or do you go?
I'm pretty fascinated with Jeff Bridges and Matthew McConaughey. I think Matthew McConaughey has a wide breadth of ability, and I really love any movie that he's in, quite frankly.
Yeah, he's really interesting.
Hey, what's your favorite Bridges movie? And then, of course, what's your favorite McConaughey movie?
Oh, God. I don't really remember those kind of things.
Okay.
But I like Fool's Gold. That was from Matthew McConaughey.
Yep.
And Jeff Bridges played that one John Wayne type of character.
Oh.
He was like a bounty hunter or something like that.
I'll think of it here in a minute. I know what you're talking about. I just thought you might go Dumb or Dumber. I thought that might be.
I thought he was good on Bridges. I thought he might go Lebowski. And for me, the McConaughey vehicle that started him was Dazed and Confused, filmed not far from here in Austin. Richard Linklater movie. And that's where he debuted the all right line.
Is that where it was?
That's what it was, yeah. So it was about 1992, Dazed and Confused, yeah.
Now, he was on a podcast. I like to listen to Lance Armstrong, believe it or not. The bicyclist, Lance Armstrong does this podcast, and he had Matthew McConaughey on there. And sometimes when I'm exercising, I'll listen to Lance talk. McConaughey is really interesting. So I know you would enjoy Lance Armstrong because you're a cyclist.
Yeah.
And you'd also enjoy – he actually is a really good interviewer. And McConaughey was really interesting. He talks a lot about his upbringing and just he's a bohemian type of guy.
He really is.
I mean, he's an interesting dude.
He gets baked and plays the bongos, and
with no clothes
everybody
on.
loves him. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's a Renaissance man, this guy. And it was an hour and 20, 30 minutes, that I listened to this guy. I mean, so if you want to listen to another podcast with Lance Armstrong called The Ford, F-O-R-W-A-R-D, The Ford with Lance Armstrong. He has a whole list of people. I just enjoy his.
You've never steered me wrong on a podcast, and I loved the couple of Armstrong. And that's a guy everybody loves to hate and loved, too, for a while, too.
Oh, yeah.
But what a brilliant podcast host he is, and he's always getting great guests.
Well, he's also honest about, he messed up. And, he talks about that in a lot of the podcasts, and he feels really terrible because he threw a lot of people under the bus.
Oh, that's always compelling to see somebody who was very not honest about something, and then he is honest about something.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He was the Tweety Bird with the with something I see the cat, was it
Sylvester the cat,
right,
black and white,
right, with a bird in his mouth going, oh, I don't have no bird. I caught him. Right. Well. East Coast, West Coast. Are you an East Coast guy or more of a West Coast guy?
Well, I guess I'm East Coast now. I mean, I used to swear against it. I've lived in L.A. I've lived in all four corners of the United States, by the way. and they've been fortunate to live in great spots. And, the East Coast is wonderful. I will tell you that. Even New Jersey, Pennsylvania was a lot better than I thought it would be. I swore that I would never have an address in New Jersey. I found myself spending all my time in New Jersey, and New Jersey has one of the best beaches in America.
The shore, right?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, it's wonderful. In North Carolina, it's a pretty cool place to live. But I yearn to get back to my Rocky Mountains. So it's not quite a West Coast, but it's pretty doggone close.
Yeah. The PNW. Everybody loves the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, they sure do, man. I love it up there.
Gorgeous. So, the mountains, the hills.
Wasn't the Shores an MTV reality? Wasn't that MTV?
The Jersey Shore.
Right. So that
was?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Snooki and all the people.
It's one of those things that
weird.
if you've even seen 10 minutes of an episode, you don't admit it.
I've never seen it. I just heard about it, so I never watched it.
Right.
Never. I watched MTV back in the day.
When they played music,
when they played music videos. Yeah, we all did. I mean, that was
same
really
here.
cool. 'Cause, I mean, in Utah, we got MTV, and I went back to Oklahoma City. This probably be like 82, I guess, one Christmas or something. There was no MTV in Oklahoma City. I was like, hey, what's the deal?
Did you trot the line out, I want my MTV? Like, did you do it in the Billy Idol accent?
Yeah.
Like we all did at some point?
I did an Oklahoma accent.
You did. Did.
Mountains or beach? I got a feeling what you're going to say, but mountains or beach?
Mountains.
Mountains, I knew he'd say it.
Are
you
you
got to put on the skis and go down the mountain, buddy.
Love
That's
it.
what it's all about.
So you like the mountains more in the wintertime, I guess, for the outdoor adventures, skiing and that kind of stuff, as opposed to the summer mountains?
I look at myself as a mountain guy.
Yeah.
I mean, in North Carolina, it's kind of like mountains, although it's nothing compared to the Rocky Mountains. But there's pine trees, and you can smell the pine, and it's the next best thing to be in there. So,
well, this is going to be
I enjoy my Rockies.
Yeah.
This is going to be a pretty good part of the year over there in North Kakalaki, I think.
Yeah,
right
the
now.
leaves are going to turn in a few weeks.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's 70 degrees out. Played a little golf today.
Oh, nice.
It's a wonderful period of time. The spring and summer, the fall and spring in North Carolina is really outstanding. So.
Now, do you use your Prince golf clubs from back in the day, or do you? You design
yes.
those too?
No, I do not. When I showed up at Golf Pride, I still had them, and they put caution tape around them. They said, "You shall not use those."
No, Steve, you can't do that.
So I had to upgrade and buy something else.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Favorite season? Are you a summer guy, fall guy, winter, or spring?
Well, like I said, I was both, Craig. I mean, I was a tennis player and a skier, to the point where I was going to do one or the other. I was going to design skis, or I was going to design tennis rackets, and that was my goal in life. And after that ulcer, I committed to doing one or the other, and I was going to be happy with either one of them, quite frankly. And I thought I was going to be a ski designer, quite frankly. And I went up to K2 for an interview, and they offered me a technician's position after getting a master's and doing a thesis for them for an entire year. I said, well, that blows, And Head wanted me to design a synthetic gut. Like, right, I can do that in a year. Like, no one's done it yet.
Yeah.
Like, right, I'm not going to do that. But anyway, went to work for Head, and that was the path I was meant to take.
Yeah.
So.
Pretty good path. You've been around the world a few times and met a lot of interesting people.
Yep. Been a lot of fun.
Yep.
Been a lot of fun.
For a kid from Boise, Idaho, right?
Awesome.
Just a podunk kid, man. A preacher's kid out of Boise, Idaho.
Right.
Well, I didn't know any better. I was just a big fish in a small pond. That's all I was.
Favorite holiday? What's your favorite holiday?
Ooh, that's a good one.
All right.
It's going to be Thanksgiving, because I get our two children. So we live here in North Carolina. Our son's in Manhattan, our daughter's in West Hollywood, and we make them come home.
Nice.
For Thanksgiving.
How old are they? 30s or 20s?
Yeah, 29, 28.
Uh-huh.
They're both still single.
Yeah.
So they don't have any excuses.
That's right.
And they're 16 months apart. We just went bam, bam,
Wow.
Bam, bam, done. Like, okay.
Two kids, girl and a boy and a girl, done.
That's it. And they're best of friends, and it's great to have them both in the house, and Thanksgiving gives us that opportunity to do that. So.
Yeah, that's a great holiday.
Yeah.
It's
one of my favorites too, for sure.
What do you like to do in your spare time when you have a spare moment?
You know, I'm running another business on top of touch tennis, and here's my problem. I'm an inventor. You know, I want to develop technology, and it's insatiable. If I have an idea, I want to pursue that idea. So those gadgets in the back there, I did that for a while, and then I've come up with a technology and formed another company, and we're developing high resolution graphics on non-slip surfaces. I was like, what does that mean? But it could be a grip for a tennis racket. It could be a grip for a golf club. It could be a decking for a boat, or it could be a mat on the floor, or whatever. It's going to be revolutionary, and I really get fired up about being a pioneer, doing something that's never been done before, almost to a fault. And this is a problem with inventors. You know, inventors get caught up in the chase and lose objectivity. And you have to always be careful about that, because I have lost objectivity on a couple of my pursuits. And it's always 2020 looking back. Like, if I'd only known that, I wouldn't have done that. But I'll never stop it, because as you saw, the monoshaft led to long body. And who would have ever, drafted that up as a plan? And there's no way that would have happened. So I'll never stop doing it. So that's what I like to do. I'll read patents. How geeky is that? And I'll try to find an angle that maybe no one has thought about before.
He reads patents.
Boy,
that's great.
I mean, how boring is that?
He can't read a whole book, but he'll read patents.
Right.
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly.
Right.
I can't read a book.
That is beautiful.
Unless it's Baldacci, David Baldacci. That's my favorite author. So
yeah.
I've read every one of his books. I think he's brilliant. I think he's wonderful. Wonderful storyteller.
You know who was big on Baldacci was Joanne Russell, the 78 Wimbledon doubles champ.
Right.
She was huge on that author and had everyone and had read 2 or 3, all the time.
Yeah. I love that. He's so brilliant. And all about espionage and spies and technology. I mean, I don't care if it's made up. I think it's cool.
So are you a James Bond fan? I'm just real quick.
I bet he is.
Okay. So.
Oh, you betcha, buddy.
Okay. So real fast here, we'll go down this rabbit hole real. Favorite Bond.
Hold on. Don't get me on trivia. Okay.
Okay. Favorite Bond though. You're like a David Niven, because he's the first Bond, all the way to Daniel Craig.
No. Sean Connery.
I knew he'd say that.
There he is.
I knew he'd say, for sure.
Come on.
Yeah.
I'm a 70s rock and roll guy.
Right.
You knew the answer before you even asked.
We definitely did.
So favorite one of Sean's movies. Which one do you like the best? Goldfinger?
Now you're going to stump me because I can't remember.
Well, there's Goldfinger.
He was pretty good. Yeah.
I like that one. That's probably my favorite.
I like that one too. Yeah, that was good.
Okay, now which Bond girl do you like the best?
Jill St. John.
Oh yes, I remember that one. She was in Vegas.
Yeah.
That one.
Steve, you came up with that name too quickly. You didn't even have to think.
Right.
Red.
Well, as soon as you started talking Bond, I'm like,
yes.
look at the Bond girls.
Right.
It's like a slot machine. It just stops right there.
Right. Yeah, no, we're Bond fans, and their last Bond movie for Daniel Craig's coming out either this weekend or last weekend.
I get to see. We have tickets for Tuesday night.
No Time to Die.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've heard some people like it, some people don't, because it depends on who.
Controversial, is it?
Yeah. Well, it's just different. I guess it's a different Bond, and he's retired now. He's coming out of retirement or something. I don't know. I don't want to spoil it for everybody.
Yeah. No spoilers, but I know your kid is a Daniel Craig fan.
Yes.
Where you and I are a little bit more Connery.
Yes.
But he, I'm sure Christopher, your boy, is about to watch that movie, and I know I am Tuesday. Yeah.
No, well, good stuff, because we like Bond. This is the first time we've talked about James Bond in a while, because I do have a series of questions about James Bond right here.
Oh, he's got the list of all the Bond girls, Ursula Andress, all of them.
Oh, yeah.
He may even have the one from Austin Powers who counts as a Bond girl in our hearts.
Yes, that would be a lot of vagina. Yeah.
It sounds like they're a little too close to you.
Yeah. The Italian bird was actually quite rancid.
No, we're Bond people. All right, so let's circle back to the third part of the third set. This is
good.
More back to tennis. Real
kind
quick.
of a home stretch back to tennis.
Yes.
Or racket sports.
We know you started playing tennis when you were a little guy. How did you really get involved? Was it your parents? Were you just looking, at down the street and saw a tennis court, and some guy said, "Hey, come on over and play tennis." What really got you involved in tennis?
So I was a 3-sport guy: basketball, football, baseball, right? Mm-hmm. And I was on the first team in basketball when I went to junior high. On the first week. The second week I was on the second team. Third week on the third team. By the time I got to the fifth week in the fifth team, I kept getting knocked down. I quit the basketball team. And my dad was so disappointed in me. And I was not a football player. And baseball, I really couldn't throw the ball hard enough. And then my sister was a tennis player. So I went out and played with her one time, and I beat her. First time I ever held a racket.
Really?
And that was when I was 13. But it was the feeling you get. It's like, God, this is what I was meant to do. This is the sport that was meant for me. And from that day on, it's all it was.
Tennis 365.
It became 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day, backboard. I mean, I couldn't get enough tennis. So that was it.
Little at Boise Racket Club. Did you go up there and play there? Did you?
The Episcopalian minister bought a racket club membership. It must have set him back a bit.
Sure.
But I had to play somewhere. And so Boise Racket and Swim Club is where I grew up playing. But the Boise Rec tennis was run by Larry Hognes. And that's where we became really good friends. And he would travel with me to the various tournaments in the Intermountain region. But it was all small time tennis. I mean, come on. I mean, it was whatever Boise could produce, But to me, it was big time tennis. And we would go to Salt Lake and get our asses handed to ourselves, or go up to Portland or Seattle and get killed up there. I mean, Boise was just a little town. It hadn't grown up yet.
You go down and play Kevin Kempen down in Salt Lake.
Great guy.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, Kevin was a great friend, and we palled around for a few years at Prince, and played a lot of tennis. Went to his wedding, and he's still a very good friend of mine.
He never got you over to his company.
Head.
Yeah, Head Pen. Yeah.
Well, it was ironic because I was with Head first, and Kevin was with Prince.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny because when I played the Denver City Open one year, when I was living in Boulder, and I remember Kevin was in the locker room selling somebody in the next row the virtues of the Prince classic oversized racket. And I'm sitting there listening to him. I'm working for Head. And I'm listening to Kevin's pitch. I'm going, God, that's pretty good.
That's pretty slick, huh?
that redhead kid from Utah is pretty good.
He's like selling me on that racket.
Yeah.
And then I would be joining Prince in less than a year. And then Kevin and I were pals all the time, out back battles, with Haggerty. And we'd probably throw Marty Devlin in there, and we're all playing tennis all the time. And Kevin got married, and it was just all that wonderful environment at Prince. It was a culture that I never had seen before, and I'll never see again. All a bunch of 30-somethings all gathered around this private company that was bought by Brentwood Associates from Cheeseboro Ponds back in 1987. And they tripled the value of the company in 5 years or so and sold it to Benetton. And then Benetton owned it for, about 10 years. And that's when they moved us, all the product development people, to Italy. And anyway, it was just it was an amazing culture there. But the industry was the strongest maybe it had ever been back in that late 80s and early 90s until the crash. The crash of 92 and 94. And that hit everybody in tennis really hard.
And then I came on in 95, and there was actually I had some good stuff there. I sold the Mach 1000, the Ripstick,
and the Mono.
Well, I can remember when we came up to New Jersey, and they had the reps come in and they go, okay, tell us what you think about this racket. And it was one of those black, painted all black, and I was sitting there looking, I was like, they go, what's different? And I was sitting there going, I don't know what's different. Looks like a Prince graphite. Went out, hit a few balls, and then I think you came by and said it's longer, and I'm like.
And it was a full inch, wasn't it?
No kidding. Yeah. I couldn't tell. You all had designed it.
Yeah.
No, you couldn't tell. I had no idea. It had long grip on it, which I like long grip, even though I have a one-handed.
One-hander, right?
Yeah. That's the one I played with while I was the Prince rep. I like that racket that much that I wanted to play with, something that was
current.
Yeah, and the other ones were a little too big for me. The Mach 1000, and the Ripstick. I liked them, but I really liked that Michael Chang racket. I thought that was and I still have one in my office actually.
I loved the paint on it because it wasn't just the traditional black green or black gold or black green gold. It had that little purple on one side, little gold. Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful racket.
He's got one right there.
Oh, he's got one.
There. Look at
there
this.
we go. That's it. Yes.
And, Head is doing that now with the gravity where it's one color this side, one color that side. You guys pioneered that. There's there's Michael's signature in gold leaf.
Yeah, that cost us about $10 a racket.
I bet.
No, that was a good racket.
Look at you, man. You've still got a good-looking leather grip on that.
Yeah.
God, it might have been one of the last ones that had a leather grip.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know if we had another racket after this with leather.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a nice racket. I mean, and we've talked to. We also had one of the guys. I don't know if he was there when you were there, but Eric Carita, the big serving.
Oh yeah,
love Eric.
149 mile an hour, sure.
With the Prince Boron.
With the Boron.
Boron.
Yes. So we're buddies with Eric, and he's been on the podcast with it. He told us a little bit about using that racket and what he can. He broke a few of those too. I mean, he served this guy's a large man.
He is 6'5". He's a big man, yeah.
And he could flat out. I'd hate to be hit with one of his serves. I mean, I'm sure he knocked a few people down.
Prince needed that. We needed that strong male player. I mean, it was known as a feminine brand, and we fought that all through my 25 years. We kept fighting. Because people with oversized racket, and we had a lot of good female players, Sabatini, Celis,
Monica,
Capriati. And we had a lot of women players. And I always thought we needed to balance that out. And finally, we got John Isner and Sam Querrey, some of those good, tall, big American. But it was constantly a discussion in the internal walls of Prince. I mean, Maria Sharapova, you had a lot of success on the women's side.
Yeah.
Ask us how many male players won a slam that played Prince, and there weren't too many.
I know one that I can think of.
Pat Cash and Michael
Patrick,
Chang.
yeah.
Rafter didn't win one?
Rafter won two U.S. Opens, 97 and 98.
98.
Yeah.
There we go, see?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of males that your average player wouldn't remember. Maybe David Ferrer, Nikolai Davydenko.
Oh, yeah.
These were Prince guys too. But in the public consciousness, at least here in the States, you're thinking of Rafter, certainly Isner, and of course Eric. For those of us who grew up with Eric's poster in our pro shop and every pro shop,
Yeah, it was fun to meet him, and now we talk to him quite a bit.
We see him all the time. Yeah, I love Eric.
And the guy plays guitar. He might want to play one of your guitars. He has about 30 guitars.
He has a collection.
And believe it or not, the guy can sing falsetto. That guy,
his
large man.
His voice is big, but he can sing the Bee Gees, ABBA, and really well. He's such a good musician. Any instruments, particularly the guitar, but his voice is an instrument. It's a beautiful singer, that guy.
Yeah, we need to get him a carbon graphite racket.
We got a guitar.
Guitar designed by Steve Davis.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, we went down that
funny.
That's okay, boys.
Yeah, okay.
No problem.
Well, we get going. We just start talking in our minds. It's not scripted. Trust me. We just kind of make these things up ad hoc.
It's scripted, but it's not scripted.
Right. What's your racket of choice today, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, what are you using now, besides the GOAT?
Yeah.
I still use the Prince Warrior.
The Warrior, yes.
Yeah, it was about a 22-millimeter beam, constant beam racket.
Yep.
They had a pretty open string pattern at those days. I was going back to 2012. I haven't switched too much. I had a few Wilson rackets sent to me, but that Prince feel that I'm so used to for decades, it's just hard to get away from that, quite frankly.
That Warrior was awesome. If I recall, 95 or 98 head, but very open pattern. Was it 16 or 14 mains?
I think it was 14.
14. I remember how quickly I was stringing one of those. Like, ooh, really? 15 minutes? I'm done with this already? It's amazing.
Right.
So easy to string and easy to play with.
And that, and you could really kick a ball.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would stay with it. The 03 tour. I like that racket. That was a little bit denser string pattern, about a 21 millimeter beam. That was really my competition racket. I still have like a matched set of 3 of those. That was a gold, white, and black one type of thing.
Yes.
I really like that one. I really did like the 03 technology. I thought it really worked. I mean, objectively, I really do believe it worked. It was a more expensive way to make a racket. And I think in general, it did work very well in the marketplace until we started to offer it at the $99 price point at Dick's Sporting Goods.
I see.
We had an executive that had a great idea, and he could increase sales. And that high value, $200 plus price point now was available for half that price. And it's a constant discussion in sporting goods companies as to who your customer is and where your customer shops. And it was right at the precursor of online sales. Right? It used to be, well, whoever goes into Dick's doesn't go into the Bentry Country Club and buys a racket. No, those two people don't know each other. You know, they must split their car in half, and one goes this way and one goes that way. You know, and I would always argue that's not true. You know, that person goes into Dick's and can buy that 03 silver now for $99 that you were selling for $239. What do you think is going to happen? Anyway, that was sort of the start of the fall of 03, unfortunately. But anyway, we're not here to bewail our manifold sins.
Not at all.
One of my favorite Prince rackets was the Shark. I like the Shark. I thought that was a really good racket that you all made. That was one of the last Prince rackets I used was
kind
the
of
Shark.
a gray-blue racket?
Kind of bluish, maybe a little white-black. You know. Do you remember the Shark?
That's a little CTS, I believe, on that racket.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed that racket. I played with that. That's probably before I started using Yonex. I was about to say Yonex, but it's actually Yonex.
Yeah, you got to do it right.
I got to do it right. I got to follow the company line. I did play with the Prince Shark. That was my last Prince racket. I stayed with Prince the whole time throughout my time because I was a rep, and I thought I got to be loyal with the
brand.
Oh yeah, no, I like Prince rackets, and I like that Shark a lot. I think I still have one. I have one of my favorite rackets of all time. I save them, and so I've got a Shark in my office.
Let me go get the other one. You guys keep rolling.
Yeah. All right. So I'm interested. Got nylon poly. What do you string your rackets with? Are you do you nylon poly or do you just nylon string?
Yeah, it's a nylon poly hybrid. I mean, I couldn't go all poly. I mean, when you get to my age, I mean that polyester string is really has a lot of shock to it, and that hurts the old arm.
Yeah.
And I'm really sensitive. You know, I got arm problems. When I played in college, let me show you this racket, Craig. This is one of the first graphite rackets. This is a Durafiber.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Remember this baby.
I remember
this
that.
This was made in Carson City, Nevada.
Do you remember that one?
I do. I love the little leather pads. Or is that leather? Yeah, you have leather pads in the throat.
Those are little plastic pads.
Oh, they're plastic. They're not even leather, yeah.
Huh.
Check out this handle size, man. It's a full 5-incher.
That's a 5. Not a
0.8.
Yeah, not a 4 5/8. That's an actual 5.
That's a 5, baby.
Yeah, that's a big man.
Racket was a full pound. This is 454 pounds of punishment.
Wow. 16 ounces and a 5-inch grip.
You betcha. I built that baby up, and I could hammer him with this. Of course, it hammered my arm, too.
I imagine.
I spent 1 year serving underhand. Number 1 singles serving underhand. Tried that. You know,
crazy.
Little trip.
Yeah, that's.
This is a wonderful racket.
Yes.
And, yeah.
Look at that dense pattern. You mentioned 70,
look at that,
70-something holes. That's an 18-20 on a
18,
wood.
20, 21, something like that.
Yeah.
It's such a small racket by today's standards.
Yeah, what is that? An 80? No, probably a standard head, 67 or so.
If you hold a wood racket up to it, like this baby.
Oh, it's the same almost.
I mean, it's about the same.
Yeah, it's probably
interesting.
60-something on the wood and maybe 70-something on that graphite.
Interesting. Yeah. Golly, I remember that racket. I forgot about that one. There's so many excellent rackets out here.
Yeah.
AJ, show him. There's another excellent racket that you designed, I think.
We're friends with Chris Lewis, and he's been on the show, and 83 Wimbledon finalist. Yep. Chris cut his teeth with Prince with the Woody, which is certainly one of my favorite Princes, but not as cool as...
I'm sure he remembers that racket.
The God racket.
I had one, and I went looking on every one of my boxes. I swear I saved one of those. but I don't have one.
I have one. I saved one that we sent in the demo pack. I got to keep this because I handed a bunch of them out, but I saved one, and I still use it to this day all the time. Because people talk about rackets. I go, well, you think you're really good.
Craig can still hit 120-mile-an-hour serve with this thing.
No, I don't know about that. With my eyes closed downhill, right, with the wind. No, I saved this one. I thought this is going to be, something. And I talk about God, with the commercial, flowing cape, all that.
Yeah, the robe, the hair, the beard,
the mortal. And we were talking about Prince rackets. And I can't remember which racket we were talking about at the time.
It was the Prince Extender.
Was that what it was? Extender.
Commercial.
Right. I remember the mortal hitting the passing shot down the line. God goes flying, and the mortal goes.
Do you know who played God in that commercial?
Who was it?
I have no idea. Who?
It was a good little trivia question.
This is awesome.
You?
No, hell no.
You were.
No, it was Vince Van Patten.
That was Vinny VP.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
That is insider stuff, man.
Oh man, now we're learning something. We're getting some really good stuff out of this. Really, Vince Van Patten. Who was the other guy? Do you recall?
I don't know.
You don't know? Just.
Oh, you mean the regular tennis player?
Yeah.
Actor.
It was an actor.
Huh.
Yeah.
But that was such a classic commercial.
So good.
That was brilliant, wasn't it?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Brilliant commercial.
Well, I know when I went out through the territory, there were some people that kind of thought we were sacrilegious.
Like, that was a little blasphemous, huh?
I was like, no, it was just funny. It was tongue-in-cheek. Come on,
All those folks over here in the Bible Belt probably didn't like that too.
Well, there were a few that used to give me, grief. And then the Benettons at that time were a little – I remember our catalog for our clothing was a little risque because there was a guy reading the Playboy magazine. And I was like, oops, okay. Well, and actually – the clothing was pretty decent. I remember having a few items. I thought this is pretty good stuff. I enjoyed. Like I said, my time with Prince was great. I had a really good time. But this is a huge hit around. We've actually got a few people playing with it. Obviously,
it's scraped up.
You don't even use it. That's worth thousands of dollars.
It is. Put it up on but
it's fun.
He's like me. If you got it, use it.
I still pull it out, but I do have my name on it because I'm not going to lose this.
No, you don't want somebody grabbing that.
No. And so.
No. Don't even let that out of your sight, man. I tried to find one on eBay, and I couldn't believe how much they're going for.
Really?
Wow.
I'm telling you, it's $1,000 at least.
I didn't know that. I just thought this was something I knew that would be just a really fascinating,
smart,
fun, just to talk.
We only made 100 or so of those things.
Really? That was it? I thought we.
That was it. I mean, just to give to the dealers and stuff as a novelty.
Yeah.
What a cool conversation piece that's been.
No, I've used it for a lot of icebreakers. People love it, and then I go now. How I always frame the conversation was because I had these
frame the conversation.
There were a lot
That's what you did most of the time with that.
That's exactly right. No, I go. Who wants to win all the prizes?
Yeah.
And, because I didn't want to take them with me in my car afterwards because it might be up in Arkansas or Oklahoma, and everybody raised their hand. I go, okay, but. So if you want to use, I go, you can't use your racket. You've got to use this racket. And they're all like, oh, my gosh. And it worked really well. And people, it was just fun. I mean, Prince was a great company. Like I said, I could have stayed working there for Prince for a long time. But this job came open. And so it was a great learning environment for me, meeting somebody like Steve and learning about rackets. I was an interesting guy. I didn't know all this stuff about rackets, and they showed us how to make rackets up there and how to make string. I was like, wow, this is awesome.
What a great part of your education.
Oh, my goodness.
Prince.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll move on here.
Yes.
Indoor tennis or outdoor tennis? Do you like indoor, outdoor? What do you like?
I kind of like indoor. The constant conditions, you can toss your ball without fear of sun or wind.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a hard court, which I tend to like. And some of my best tournament wins were on indoor courts. So
at the Kibbe Dome.
The Kibbe Dome, man. I'll tell you what, Craig. That roof on that dome was so high we couldn't hit it.
Really?
After
practice we'd have these challenges, right? Trying to hit the tiles up there.
Yep.
Nobody could hit it.
Really? It was that high?
How high that thing is.
Even big, strong college players like you guys couldn't crack the top. Wow.
Right. We couldn't do it, man.
Wow, that's amazing. I hadn't thought about that. That's obviously if you're going to be a punter, you've got. Yeah. I'm sure they didn't hit the roof either, did they?
There's no way a football can go out. You can hit a tennis ball higher than you can punt a football. And
No way.
I don't know why they made that Kibbie Dome so high. Literally, it looked like a Coors Light can on its side. I mean, just,
Like long cylinder,
Yep.
like that way. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So funny.
Well, I think Idaho State had something similar also, too, because that was a design that looked like it was both universities, if I recall, because I've been by Idaho State a few times. I think they had one of those cylinder-type stadiums also, too, that must have been pretty high up also, too.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I don't know.
I always like to ask this question because I think it's kind of fun to see if you had any embarrassing moments in tennis. Did you have one of those moments? I've had a couple. Most embarrassing moment in tennis. Have you had anything where you've fallen down or hit the net or,
Well, this is a funny story. We would, when we developed long body, and so we're selling these two rackets, right? The Mach 1000, of course, the Ripstick and the Michael Chang, and everybody wanted to buy the Michael Chang. We had a 10-city Bliss tour that started in Seoul, Korea, and ended in New Zealand, okay? One city a day. And we come in the morning, do a dog and pony, go out to the courts, hit the rackets, and then take orders and off to the next city. 10 cities. And in each city, I would stand up because I wanted people to really give the Mach 1000 a try. Because you look at the racket, you go, yeah, no. So I would stand up there and say, look, if anybody can beat me, I'll play the Mach 1000. Anybody in this crowd that can beat me, we'll give you a free tennis racket.
Wow, that's a couple $100.
City after city, I would stand up there, and there would be a crowd of 100 people. We're all going to the course afterwards, so let's all go, and why don't you try to beat me and earn a free racket?
Right.
Nobody would take me up on it.
Nobody.
Every city. Until we get to Bangkok. We get to Bangkok, and I say, if anybody can beat me, and an arm goes up at the back of the room, and everybody turns their head, and there's this kid, this teenage kid in jeans in the back of the room. And everybody goes, let's go to court. So we all go off to the court, and we play, and this kid beats me.
This has got to be Paradarn.
Play like 4 games or whatever.
This has got to be a baller, this kid.
I mean, he beats me in his jeans, And it was a great publicity stunt, And it was a little bit embarrassing, but hey, I was 40 years old at the time, and he was probably 16. And okay, you can see where that might happen. And it's Thailand, where you go outside and you immediately sweat a shirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, humid.
But that was probably one of my most embarrassing.
Steve, was it one of the Sri Chapan brothers?
Yeah, really, I wish. It would have made me feel better.
Yeah.
No, this kid had a work shirt and jeans on.
Amazing.
And torn up tennis shoes. He goes up and beats me.
He's that good.
Crap.
Huh.
Who was this guy?
Right.
Anyway, that was a little bit embarrassing, but it's okay. It proved a point. And,
right.
Somebody can actually hit a ball with a Mach 1000. That's good. So
and you proved a point. It just cost you a couple $100 racket.
And we got front page news on the sports section next day in the paper.
The best.
So hey, look, we got PR out of that. So
like
it was fun.
No bad press.
Never.
Bad press, man.
No bad press. Do you like to watch tennis on TV? Are you a tennis guy? Are you a junkie?
I don't watch as much as I used to. I'll watch the slams. I do a lot of watching on Instagram, touch tennis on Instagram. I find that interesting as to what's going on around the world. It's more or less part of my business. I watch when the U.S. Open was on, man, I was watching that almost every day. So
it's funny you say watching on Instagram. When I tagged, of course, you and Touch Tennis USA and Touch Tennis back in the UK, I also noticed about 15 or 20 other Touch Tennis ones. Touch Tennis Love, Touch Tennis Brazil, Touch Tennis Queensland, India, Belgium. I mean, it really is worldwide, and I did not know that until this week.
Yeah, we're in 18 countries worldwide.
Yeah.
We've had over 100,000 players playing events. We've been seen 2.5 million times on YouTube. So Rashid has done a real good job, with the social media out there. I know we have just over 1,000 followers in a year now in the USA. So it's getting to where it needs to be. I mean, we'll be at 10,000 followers, I think, in probably a year. But now we need to start, blasting it out there, and it'll get going. Blasting
it and showing off these cool tournaments like in Santa Monica, and I look forward to playing in one of these. I love
Dallas,
touch tennis.
Texas. Maybe Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas.
Right.
You go to a Marriott and have it in the lobby or the ballroom.
That's what Hogness did for me in the Marble Falls at that conference in Horseshoe Bay.
Have it at the Galleria on the ice skating rink.
On the skating rink.
There's the Galleria shopping mall.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome to have it on the skating rink. I mean, there's thousands of people that walk. It's a 4 level.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, we could have a couple thousand people watching.
Oh yeah. No, that'd be really cool. Favorite tennis player? Who was your favorite tennis player? You have one.
Mac.
Johnny Mac. Me
really?
too, man.
Interesting. I wouldn't
love him.
And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, tell us why.
He always said what I felt and was afraid to say.
Yes.
I had a fire when I was on the court, man. I was a fierce competitor, and Johnny said the stuff that I wanted to say. Because when you get so competitive, sometimes you just hate the person on the other side of the net. But I don't hate him.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of fierceness that builds up inside of you. You know what I mean? And I related that to McEnroe. All his antics, and sometimes he went overboard.
Of course.
And then the Borg and McEnroe rivalry was fire and ice, and there was nothing better in tennis, in my opinion.
It got so many non-tennis people completely in love with the game, that rivalry.
That's right.
Yeah, and I know.
I'll tell you about McEnroe's story. So
yeah,
I'm with Larry Hogness. We're watching Roddick play the U.S. Open, run the USTA president's box, behind the center court there.
Right.
And I'm watching, and Johnny Mac comes up with a beer in his hand.
Yeah.
He's standing next to me, and I go, oh, hi, John.
Hi, John.
Hi, Steve Davis and Prince. Nice to meet you. How you doing? Yeah, fine. Yeah, good, whatever. And I said, hey, wait a minute. Aren't you calling the match? He goes, yeah, I just want to come down for a beer.
Incredible.
I go, aren't you the coolest guy?
I need a little liquid libation.
he needed a Heineken, and it's probably part of his contract to get a couple free Heinekens every now and then.
Oh shit!
That's so
really
cool.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so cool.
All right, we're rounding the corner. Right, this is we're turning down the home stretch. Got a couple more questions for you. I know you have kids. Did they play tennis? Just out of curiosity, were they tennis?
Only because I made them.
Right.
My daughter ended up playing high school tennis, and she had the greatest strokes, but didn't know how to compete. So she ended up sometimes playing number one for her high school team, but it was more or less, so everybody could move down and not just
stack
that one spot away, and everyone's going to be better.
The old stack, huh?
I probably forced her into doing it too much, and my son was too much of a soccer player. I mean, he grew up on the soccer pitch, and he grew up in Italy playing soccer. So, he still is a Juventino. He loves
Juventus. Yeah.
Yep.
He can sing all the Italian fight songs. They're both fluent in Italian.
Remarkable.
So he's a soccer player and still is to this day.
Still now in New York, he plays in a league.
Plays in leagues in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Yep. He does it. And Cassidy, she blew out a knee. We're a 3 ACL family.
Oh,
both
wow.
Stefan and Cassie blew out ACLs skiing.
Uh-huh.
I blew out mine playing a pickup doubles match.
Oh, yours wasn't from skiing. It was from tennis.
No, I was after college. I came back to play at the Boise Raccoon Swim Club, Craig.
Mm-hmm. Been there a few
with some
times.
Boise State players. My buddies there.
Yeah.
Nacho Leracachia. I don't know if you ever knew Nacho.
Knew the name, yes. Yeah,
He
absolutely.
was a legend from Mexico. Anyway, we're playing doubles and I blew up my knee. So Cassie doesn't she doesn't play much sports anymore.
But she does acting, comedic acting or dramatic?
Yeah, she does. And she also wrote, directed, and starred in her own web series called Adulting Web Series.
Adulting.
Oh, no, Adulting Web Series.
Web
Make sure
series.
You get the web series in there.
You have to.
Otherwise you get the wrong one. Okay?
I see.
Oh.
I see. Oh, I get it. I
Right.
get it. I get it.
Adulting Web Series starring Cassidy Davis. So that's the one you want to watch.
We're going to it tomorrow morning.
So
Okay.
there's sometimes I tell people, they ask me what I do. I say I'm an adult entertainer. And I go, no. I'm not that kind of adult entertainer. I'm a tennis
That's
pro.
right. Yeah, be careful about that.
Right. All right. I have an idea about this question, but if you wouldn't have been involved in sports, what would you be doing right now, you think? Because sports has been played such a major part of your life. What do you think you would have been doing?
Yeah, what kind of a question is that?
These are great questions. Yeah.
He almost gave you cannot be serious.
Right.
You see that?
I know that.
Yeah, really.
I
You cannot be serious with that thing.
Right. He'd be an engineer.
I would have been an engineer somewhere. I mean,
sure.
I didn't know if I wanted to be an engineer. And that through my sophomore year in college, about the same time I got that ulcer, I took that aptitude test, whatever. And I came back, engineer, minister, engineer. Like, whoa, what was that one? Minister? How does that mix in with all this geeky stuff? I mean,
Wow.
it was weird, but my dad was a man of the cloth, and he was a giving person. And I would have been an engineer somewhere. I would have been driven to something, Craig. I don't know what it would have been driven, but, I have a fire that burns inside, and whatever I'm doing, I want to do it to the most. So
maybe reading patents. Patent reader. You could have been a good lawyer. Been a patent lawyer.
No, I don't like reading. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'll only read parts of a patent. But yeah, I mean, that's, I love being an engineer. It's so cool being an engineer. And I'm never going to retire. I'm telling you. I'm 65 years old right now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. And I had a hip replaced about 4 years ago, thanks to tennis. Tennis beats you up. You guys know that.
Oh, yeah. We do. And that's probably why you ride a bike every day. That's awesome.
That's exactly why I ride a bike. Keep those joints lubricated. Yep. But, I can go back on a touch tennis court and I can play singles touch tennis. I will not play singles tennis anymore. If I do, I hurt for 3 days.
Yeah.
I can't do that. But I can go out and play a tournament in touch tennis, and I have still the thrill of playing tennis. Tennis is a thrill. It's just so much fun to hit the ball.
And be so creative with the different shots and the movement. I for those reasons, I'll never kick this game.
It's the most incredible sport ever. And to be able to do it again, it's like I've been reborn. And so there are a lot of people like me out there that walked away from tennis because they hurt too much. They can come back.
What a great answer to your question about what would he do. He's a born again minister of tennis. Born again as a tennis guy. Thanks to touch tennis. Yeah.
Right. So here's our last question. We always like to ask this on a ending note, and we appreciate you've been with us 2 hours and 16 minutes
over
right
two,
now. So if you were the commissioner of the Great Game, we know Dave Haggerty, your buddy Dave Haggerty, is kind of the commissioner of the Great Game.
In many ways, yeah.
You might want to give him some advice. Is there anything that you would change, or do you like it the way it is? Okay, yeah, shoot. Go.
Yeah, I would do this. Here's what I would do.
Okay.
And it's a very simple rule, actually. I would say, look, you get, I don't know the exact number, but I'll say you get 4 second serves a game.
I see.
Interesting. Okay.
That's it.
So if you haven't used them, tough. Yep. If you've used them, but now it's add out, add in, you've used them. So here goes.
That's it. That's all it is. I mean, it could be 2, could be 3. I don't know what the magic number is.
But limit it.
Just don't go up there and bang it, knowing that you always have a backup. Be a little bit more thoughtful in delivering your serve, okay? That would improve the time of the match. It would make it more interesting. And I think it would be better for the game.
What a great rule.
That's simple. We've never heard that.
That's a new one for us.
That's a new one. That's a really interesting idea. I'd never thought about that. Kind of like challenges, it used to be challenges when you had lines people. Now that it's all, at least on TV, it's electronic. Do you like the electronic calling? Speaking.
No, I like the arguments.
You like the Johnny Mac human element.
I do.
Yeah.
I like it when corners jumped over the net and erased that one ball.
That was against Corrado Barrazzuti, 76 Forest Hills. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Oh, God, that was just – and Nastasi. I mean, God, the characters – we've lost a bit of character to our sport.
Yeah.
Believe me, there are a lot of characters out there still.
I mean, we've got some Kyrgios, we've got Bublik, we've got Sasha as a jerk sometimes, Tsitsipas bends some rules, pushes the envelope a little. Novak is always in the news for something, good or bad.
I was about to take a bathroom break, for 5 minutes.
Or 8 minutes.
Right.
What is he doing in there?
Right. He took his phone with him.
He's clearly texting with his mom or dad.
Right. Yeah.
With his coach.
No, I mean, I like that. 4,
4 second serves. Limit the second serves.
Yeah, a game. And if you don't use them, you can't keep it going. All right. Now, that's an interesting thought. I never had considered that. I thought you were going to say, okay, play the let serve.
I love the let thing, yeah.
Yeah,
I think the let serve helps. I just think that having a limited number of second serves, because if you go into multiple deuces, man, you're hosed.
Yeah,
right.
You're pushing up daisies.
Yeah.
And now it becomes almost an equal battle as that game goes on. To me, that's really intriguing. It adds strategy to the game. I think that would be interesting for folks.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. We've had some other ideas out there, but I think that's a unique one. That's
a unique one, and thank you. And goodness, thank you for the whole 3 sets tonight.
Yes.
Steve Davis, you are absolutely delightful and a smart man, a lot of fun to hang out with, man.
Oh, man, yeah.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure, really. We'll do it again sometime, I hope.
I hope so. We'd love to do a part 2 with Steve Davis as we become more into touch tennis, and you start hitting all the social media channels with thousands and hopefully millions of fans and followers in this great game of touch tennis.
Well, as Karnak the Magnificent once said, I see a touch tennis care package coming to you soon.
We're gonna start doing this. I think this is gonna be fun.
He gave us a Johnny Carson reference.
Yes, I know that.
Without Johnny Carson, that was beautiful.
That's right.
He didn't say like mustard, ketchup, cat, and touch tennis.
I'm just an engineer, man. I'm not a comedian, right? So don't mix them up, right?
You are on the comedy end of engineers, though. We like that.
May the hair of a camel's breath, Carson was awesome. I mean,
Karnak.
My favorite. He was my favorite.
Yeah.
That's the guy. Okay, now that I could have invited him to dinner.
He's coming to dinner with Jessica Alba.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like, bend over. You give her one of those.
Can he smoke cigarettes? I heard he's a big smoker.
He did smoke.
Yeah. But he played tennis
that'd
too.
Be good, but Matthew McConaughey would straighten him up.
He would.
Yeah,
he would.
You're right.
Terrific night. Now, tell people how they can get in touch with you. Touch tennis. Tell us all the details real quick before we let you.
Yeah, you can go on Instagram, Touch Tennis USA.
Okay.
Facebook as well.
Good.
And you can always email me, steve@touchtennis.com.
Well, that was easy.
Could not be easier.
Steve@touchtennis.com. So simple. And of
Remember,
course,
touch tennis is all one word and all lowercase.
And I know there it is. And I know we have a care package coming to us, but for the folks at home who may not, Amazon. You've probably heard of it. Amazon.
There's a little company out there.
Go grab some touch tennis gear and let's play, everybody. Thank you.
Yep.
Give it a try, folks. You'll love it. You really love it.
Well, we certainly appreciate the couple hours we've spent with you. We know it's getting close to 11:30.
Right.
And you get up early and probably go ride out there in North Kakalaki. So
yes.
You're going to ride in the morning. Is the weather good enough to ride?
Well, I got invited to play golf tomorrow morning at a course I've never been to.
Okay.
So I had accepted that. So I'm going to bypass the bike. It'll go for Tuesday morning.
Wow.
So that's what I'm
Monday morning golf, Tuesday morning ride.
Yep.
We bid you a wonderful week, pal. Thank you.
Gentlemen,
Thank you very much. Very much. Steve Davis,
Bye-bye.
Idaho Vandal, right here. I was wearing the colors.
The black and gold.
The black and gold, baby.
I'm proud of you.
Big Sky Buddy. All right. Steve, thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. All
Good
right.
night, Steve. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Craig, what a great guest.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, that was awesome.
And a big future with that sport. I'm excited to see the streaming, the social media, the actual competitive side, and maybe even the prize money side. Maybe they have something for 50 and overs.
Maybe a live stream. Maybe
a stream. Maybe we get to do courtside commentary.
That'd be fun right there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get James Guy Campbell to get us going here.
Yes, sir.
So we can sign off tonight after a couple hours of great conversation with one of our favorite guest.
That guy was awesome.
He was awesome right there. Well, thanks for listening to Season 1, Episode 97. 97, we're closing in on that century mark of ATN Podcast. Join us next week as we'll be talking with our buddy Georgie Schulberg, fellow USPTO.
Love George.
He's just someone who's just downright funny.
Oh, you're going to laugh your butts off, everybody. We're going to have a good time.
We can get Georgie going. Yeah. Also join us Wednesday evening as we do a little thing called Tennis Shorts on Instagram, don't we?
Instagram, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain. We have a great time. We talk about whatever's on our minds. We've got a couple things going. Always 2 legs to the shorts. Come join us Wednesday night on Instagram to find out what's in Craig Bell's tennis shorts?
0. Nothing much right there. And lastly, be sure to like and follow us. Actually, we're going to be back on Facebook here shortly.
Oh, good.
We're on YouTube tonight, but we do have a Facebook page again. We got some reason we got shellacked on Facebook.
We're just not quite woke enough.
I guess not.
But we'll be back.
But we're here on YouTube, Instagram, and our other social media outlets. Plus, tell a friend or friends as we like your friends, and hopefully they'll be netheads just like everybody else, right?
That's right.
And everybody, that's the tennis news as it
seems to us.
Good evening from Dallas, Texas, everybody.